let's blast off. I'm back. Officially deleted Twitter from my phone again, because I realized like Twitter and Reddit, even if I'm not like actively posting on there or whatever, they still end up breaking my brain a little bit. Like, even if it's not even negative stuff that I'm reading about me in particular, even reading negative shit about other people, I feel like puts me in a bad mindset. So yeah, deleted Twitter off the phone again. You blocked YPK first minute, the rest were trolling. I know, that was pretty crazy. That was YPK is a flop merchant, let's be real. No, I'm kidding. He's spectacular. Freaka said I body checked him, I hip checked him a little bit, so it's fine. But he is very flighty. So when he's in the air, he's always, if his shot doesn't go in and when he's in the air, or even if it does go in, he's going to fall. Like, he is incredibly he's really good. I mean, dude, listen, let's get into it. Let's do it. I'm gonna do a Dreamcon recap real quick, and then we'll get to all of the other stuff. Obviously there's so much to talk about. Jesus Christ, so much has taken place. The refs were crazy. Yeah, they were calling everything on our side and not calling nothing on the other side. That was all ball, bro, contorted around the block. Yeah, I mean, I told you guys Freaka is cold. I told you. I said that beforehand. Like, before I've played with Freaka, I know how nasty he is. He is an incredible baller. Anyway, yeah, I took one day off. Ukraine bombed Russia, obviously, you know, expected. Ukraine drone strikes Russia. Colorado man attacks Israel protest. Were those the best? What? Glad to see you on the court, but my God, I need more rebounds from you, Sir Hassel. I don't think a lot of people understand. The people that I guarded, with the exception of Cam, who I wasn't able to, I was always doing cover. Like, I was always having to get back, to run back towards in order to defend. But like, Peyton, when I was guarding him, had 0 shots on me and 0 rebounds. Like, I was fucking boxing out like crazy. Cam on our team basically took all of the rebounds. There was nothing remaining, you know? Commentators pulling your old legs. Bro, please respond. Would you be able to interview someone from the Freedom Flotilla? I can connect you. Yeah. There were a lot of moments where you were alone defending, which was insane. I know. Y'all went 2 for 23 at the 3. I didn't take any 3s, so don't give me that. Oh, okay. I'm back. Dreamcon recap. Ukraine short strikes Russia. Colorado man attacks Israel protests. Big beautiful Bill drama. You look like Shaq if Shaq couldn't play defense or get the ball in the basket. Thanks, man. What happened here?
Do you regret any of your draft picks? Nope. I don't regret nobody.
Ask him about his the lack of scoring.
Yeah, I was also going to ask you about the bench, the time, and the minutes. You mad at coach? Am I mad at coach? Why would I be mad at the coach? I feel like I'm instigating.
No, because like the coach can only do so much, and he put the players in, and when the players only, score 4, then it's like you can't really be mad at the coach.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what the problem was for real. We went 2 and 23 from the 3. That was the problem. Yeah. We was living and dying by the 3, and we died by the L.
Low key, you're more of a shooter than a post. You're just locked in the post because you're tall. Speak to the Gaza Flotilla boat. Dude, can you guys fucking calm down? Hey, everybody, I'm fine. I'll do it. Okay? You don't have to. Oh my God. I forget. I take a day off. Obviously, everyone's going to be fucking crazy mode. All right, calm down. We'll talk about all of that. Okay? I'll do it. I'll talk to the Gaza Flotilla. Like, I know you're very excited. I'm back. Oh my Lord. What a fucking way to start, dude. What a way to start my goddamn Monday. All right. Hold on. What are you doing? Place. Kaya obviously has been away from me and with my mom and dad for the last weekend, and she has like reversed her training. It is crazy. It is actually crazy. So too much freedom. Absolutely too much freedom. Spoiled by the grandparents. What is this? MAGA male attacking Fear Ann? Why? Is he just jealous because we're better? Is that what it is? All right, we'll look at that in a second. Hold on. I'm back. Dreamcon recap. Big beautiful Bill drama. Chris Hedges will be on later, and also playing Night Rain with Elements like Kuno. Get in now. Stop cap. No, I'm actually gonna do it. And it's funny because every single person that like constantly freaks out about me not gaming enough is gonna leave instantly, and I don't even care. I don't even care anymore. I'm bringing a I don't give a shit attitude going forward to this stream. I'm done. I took one day off and I realized how things could be. Okay. Love getting roasted at Dreamcon. What is this?
I was volleyballing out. Everyone called me the DEI hire. Why are you laughing?
This nigga laughing too. He says it's his event.
You said that was a joke.
Hey, Dad's laughing too, man. You kind of low-key are. What? But I'm happy you're here, though.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I like seeing you, Lud.
You one of the cool ones.
Oh, shit.
Yo.
Are you comfortable?
You know, I'm feeling pretty good here, actually. The food is so flavorful.
Oh, is there mac and cheese here?
Yeah, it's delicious.
That's funny. At least you look cool in this clip. Let's see. What is this? Oh, yeah. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Get at me. Get at me. See, I looked cool there. I had another point as well. When in the beginning, I took a couple shots and I missed because I was like, I did not even warm up.
He gets 2 points.
That was a very difficult baby hook.
What is this? Oh, they also said I was 285 pounds and 6'1", which is crazy. And even the security there couldn't believe it. They were like, the security there was like, oh, they got your height wrong. But they thought that I was actually they thought that I was actually 280 pounds. I'm like, no, man, I'm 230.
Sorry.
And now for Team Mark, the big unit is in the building at 6'1", 285 pounds. It's the rebounding demon out of Turkey with a full head of hair, Hasanabi!
0 for 6, 14 rebounds is my predicted stat sheet. Hassan, a unit on the court. If his jump shot hits today, man, that could make the difference.
That's asking for a lot.
Coming out of the tunnel next, we got...
Yeah, that's crazy. They said I was 6'1". I'm 230. He just said 0 for 6 is my prediction. I have to cook him. I have to play with all these guys, man. I have to play with all these guys. Motherfuckers thought they were getting Shengun, but we got content instead. Yeah. They're trolling. They're trolling. You being bigger than 250 would be hilarious. I used to be. I was 285 a couple of years ago. I was really fat. But real height and fat leaked. Yeah.
Hassan, a unit on the court. If his jump shot hits today, man, that could make the difference.
I'm shocked he's not wearing pads.
At least we got some fan cams out of it. Yeah, that was a block that...
Some of the chats that Hassan...
That's crazy that was not considered a block.
Some of the chats...
That was... I blocked them early on, and then they immediately hit me with a foul. I'm trying to stop it there, but I can't. Where is it? Hey, yeah, look at that. That was dumbass... Dumb AF foul. Were there some chirpers as you came on the court in the beginning and at halftime? No. What is this? What the fuck? Why is he wearing Fitbits on his knees? Because I'm an old man. Is there a reason behind 42? No, I didn't choose my number this year. Now, here's the thing. Okay? Here's the thing. No, daha yeni bir şeyler de... ben order ettim. Peki. Please pull up, man. Can't have these motherfuckers talking crazy like this.
Evil version of Cash, bro. This dude is a straight up tryhard, not even that. 99 Ron Artest and
Okay, Ippy is an incredible player. I said this last year too. That's crazy that he's talking shit about Ippy. I think he's a dynamo. Like incredible on defense. He's a great offensive player as well. He is all around the most balanced player on the fucking court. I said this last year too. He is great. He is someone said reverse Kobe. Yeah, I mean he's always good. 2-point Avi is back. No, I had 4 this time. Okay, shut up. Yo, Bilu actually was our wild card for sure. AP is good. He missed the shots this year. MVP was Bilu. Yeah, I had no idea he could ball like that.
Patrick Beverly defense, bro. You know what I'm saying? Hasanabi, you know what I'm saying? Physical too. I'm gonna go with Team Mark. 1 in the chat for Team Duke, 2 for Team Mark.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. We were cooked from the start. Flu game LeBron versus Soda game Hassan, who wins? Hasanabi. No, we had a much, I mean, their team was much better. Like they had a much bigger team. They had a team that was comprised of much better basketball players. Not keep playing.
Iceman, he's a cone, bro.
Oh my god.
All right, skip all this shit. Started the game. Where the game? Show the game.
It's amazing.
Oh, Cash doing justice. Yo, W Cash for skipping the beat.
It's kind of crazy because after I beat Chris, like in that upset in the 1v1, everybody was like, bro, we gotta play. And then I played so poorly. You should play Cash and Flight. No, I could. I just haven't had time to do that, but I want to. But after I beat Chris on that one-on-one, like after I skunked him, Chris has been trying to play again, by the way. I just haven't had time. All these guys were like, damn, these guys are, bro, I don't think you can play anyone. I think you need to understand, playing 1v1 is entirely different than playing 5-on-5 basketball. There's not, I'm not the type of player that's gonna be a excellent fucking 5-on-5 basketball player if the rest of the team are like the shot providers. Okay, my position in a game like this, my position in a 5-on-5 organized game like this is supposed to be playing a role. I'm not a better shot taker than Max. Okay, I'm not going to drive the ball. Like, that's it. I have to play a specific role. And I tried to play that specific role to the best of my ability, but ultimately I think I did all right. Like I wasn't super ass, but there was always like our defense, we were playing man, but it was like a leaky faucet. Like I was on both ends, I would go up, I'd get into the paint, look for an opportunity for a pass. I never got it because everybody would just fucking drive. They would just put their head down and drive. I would wait in the paint, wouldn't get any fucking passes, which is fine. It is what it is. And then I would just run back. There would always be one man that was completely off coverage. Every single turnaround ended up with a 3-point shot. Every single turnaround. I mean, it's not supposed to be that serious anyway, but every single turnaround, every single turnover turned into a bucket for them. And even when it wasn't, even when they would bring up the ball, I said turnover, even when they brought up the ball, there was always one person that just like literally was not covered at all. So I had to always run. I always had to run and find someone else. You said countless pick attempts, but they just went over the other way entire time. Yeah, that was the other thing. You were the only one back on D. The only two big mistakes that you made leaving Kennedy open for 2 threes. Yeah, I did. But the reason why I left him open was because I was offering coverage to someone else. He's a big man, but he also can shoot threes. I'm playing catch up. I'm trying to cover someone else because there's always a guy that has no one guarding them. I'm trying to guard the person that's driving in, and then he just immediately kicks it back out to Kennedy. He takes a 3-point. I can't even get over there in time. Someone was always open. There was always one person that was just like completely open. That full court had you gassed though, to be fair. No, I mean, I was fine. Dude, I was on defense every time and on offense every time. Like I was definitely going there was never a moment where I was like, oh, I'm just going to stay here. Like there was definitely a lot of instances where people would just like, what is this? Oh yeah, here. I mean, look, your boy can defend. Your boy can be a nasty defender if he needs to be. Look at this. Look, this is a person that's much better than me. Okay. Look,
you're going to need as much time as possible to catch back up in this game.
Look, I literally stopped him at the top of the key. And I stopped him so hard that he didn't even do like a turnaround shot there because I clamped on him. But there's a lot of moments like this. Obviously, none of this shit shows up as like a stat. And it's also a thankless part. Okay, this is the thankless part of the game. Also, like I said, they had a incredible team comp. I mean, they had an incredible team in general. Explain it in golf terms. Friga had 34. Yes, he is nasty. He's so goddamn good. I mean, he is an incredible player. I've said this before, and everyone always have said I glaze him or whatever, but he is an incredible player. He's always been an incredible player. I mean, Chris Hedges is supposed to be coming on at 2 p.m. Okay, what is this?
Oh, high five!
Yeah, I mean, dude, he's just so nasty. He doesn't waste anything. Like, he just dude, look at that.
Oh, high five! Free.
He doesn't waste. His shot is so good. It's just so fucking good. Not a single moment wasted. Like, Duke popped off in the beginning as well. Hey, Hassan, you haven't mentioned the Knicks, because what happened to the Knicks is what happened to me as well with the Dreamcon. So why showcase the double failure, you know?
Jab almost dribbles right into a double team. Maintains possession.
Oh, good defense by Ray.
Like, I was wide open, dude. I'm a wide open top of the key. Look. Like what more can I do there? You know what I mean? I'm in position. I have decent off the ball movement there. You know what I mean? Boom, turnover. He goes into almost a triple team. They let him go. Then another double. He's not he was all right. Flight and Cash said they would have gotten a triple double if they showed up. Didn't Cash play last year? Yeah. Wasn't there a ball coach you were talking about doing some content with? Yeah. The thing is, yeah, I mean, it was good. The fact that we even brought it back at all, the fact that even leave the basketball before the basketball leaves you. What? Oh, you mean like pass it off? The fact that we got what do you call it? What was I gonna say? God damn it, I can't even think. The fact that they even brought it back at all with how imbalanced the teams are is great. Look, the kids got foot. You know what I mean? Like, the kids got fundamentals. Is like, when I get the ball.
But you know they're gonna get criticized no matter what.
Oh, great steal. Here we go.
Look who's there. Look who's there. Fattest motherfucker on the court. Always there. Fattest motherfucker on the court. Always there.
Well, you know what? Max was creeping, but we're trying to see a real highlight. That's a big start, though. Big start for Team Duke.
Yeah, completely edged. Very excited and then very disappointed. I'm an unhappy commentator.
Look.
He's going to make something happen. Wow.
Little fake pass. Hall of Fame bailout.
I feel like I'm watching Glory Road when I'm watching Hasanabi.
What does that mean? I feel like I'm watching Glory Road when I'm watching Hasanabi. What does that mean?
Hassan just looks so funny on a basketball court.
Kennedy.
Not quite. Rebound goes to Duke.
We talked about the hustle. We talked about the muscle. He tried to reward himself. Look at that. Fundamental from Hassan. Elbows out.
Yep.
And it's cam time.
Elbows out. Just.
They're making fun of me because I'm playing solid fundamental basketball. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm old. But even though I'm fucking old, I'm still, you know, I'm keeping up. I'm keeping up with everybody else. That's crazy.
Swinging, man. Hoping he catches somebody. Here we got Hassan with the basketball.
The hook shot, listen. Great effort. Is that what you want to run your offense through?
Yeah, look, I'm running through. You might as well try something different. Running through Hassan. Friga wide open, corner three.
This start is what Team Mark just could not.
If that went in, I got a layup package. Timeout on the hate, by the way. Timeout on the hate. That's crazy. Stop the hate. Okay, that was bad. You got to admit. I mean, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. Like, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't that bad. Like, I went right up for it. Look, I'm going in. Good protection on the ball. I go up for the hook. Stick the one-on-one highlights on your IG. Like, you're a huge guy. That should be commended. Not saying you look weird on the cover. All these motherfuckers are so thin. You body them well. You did not turn up. Okay. I'm just not a flashy player. Okay. I'm just not a flashy player. That's it. All of you want to see a flashy player, and all you're getting is solid fundamentals. I should have actually pump fake there. I should have basically stopped and then put it up.
The hook shot, listen. Great effort. Is that what you want to run your offense through?
Yeah, look, I'm running through. You might as well try something different. Running through Hassan. Friga wide open, corner three.
This start is what Team Mark just could not afford coming out the locker room.
Dude, 50 to 33. God damn. You play like the type of guy who gets mad at players are celebrating. Anyway, all right, listen. Not my best performance, okay? I was 2 buckets for 4. I don't even know where the other point was. I think I scored 2. I attempted 4. I scored 2, 50%. That's pretty much it. Was it better than last time? No, I don't know. Also, people are saying why you couldn't get a rebound. Brother, on our team, we had a rebound demon, okay? Cam on our team literally had 20 fucking rebounds. 20. I don't think you're getting called back next year, big dog. Maybe. Anyway, do you think you're gonna watch Mountainhead? What? Do you think you're gonna watch the new Jesse Armstrong movie that's out? What? No. What? Maybe? I don't know. You have 4 rebounds. Ippy had 8. Cam had 20. All right, that's it. That's all I got for Dreamcon, back and forth, all this stuff. Let's see what this man is saying and talking shit about. Okay.
Yeah. I'm live.
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't text you because I'm in a rush, but I just had to update you. They panic moved Firan to literally right now. So I'm leaving the house, running to Hassan's house. Then I'll come back. Then we can get ready and go to prom.
No.
Oh.
No, you call them back. You tell them you need 24 hours notice, and that if they're going to fucking fuck you, they need to be professional. Okay, they need 24 hours notice.
What's the
Fuckers.
problem about getting because it's usually not professional.
That's fair.
And
actually.
like I've been meaning to talk to you. They all have an enormous crush on me, and I don't know what to do about it.
But to be honest, I don't fucking like any of them. So you can just
including
leave the
the
podcast.
gay one. The gay one is like super into me.
That was my least favorite one. Not because
Yeah.
he's gay, but
That's bullshit.
Anyway, I'm just gonna go hang out with my other boyfriends, I guess.
don't call him that. I'll kill myself in real life with a. If you ever do that again?
Oh, okay. Well, I will see you in a few hours, but I just have to update you.
All right,
Also,
bye.
I have not eaten today. I had fruit. I'm gonna eat so much of Hassan's food.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.
I'll deadass change the course of her life. She does that to me again. I'm not trying to get CLM'd out here. I can't be turning 30 and CLM'd in the same month. That's tough. I already made the channel dubbin 031. I can't make it dubbin 221. Connor, don't jump in.
Dude, I just saw your girlfriend's car parked at Hassan's house.
Don't jump.
No! I hate Firan. They ruined prom for Ludwig. It's his first time going with a beautiful girl. Honor. Cutie hard launched the Firan merch. Yeah, I mean, this has been the merch for a long time. Like that we just haven't been able to put out there. But yeah. What is CLM? Cuck Lives Matter. It's like a E-Rob meme. But yeah, like I said, I want the record to show I'm 33 years old, do political commentary for a living. I'm playing against motherfuckers who played for college. I'm playing against dudes. Can't wait to spend 500 on that sick Firan black denim jacket. Your Itala radar is on point. Another Italian confirmed. What?
Who is this guy?
That's me, Christian.
Oh.
But I'm a different.
That's me. Oh my God, there's 2 of me.
There's 2 of me.
Imagine 2 of him and 2 of me.
Of course he's Italian. Obviously. I mean, he's the most Italian to ever exist. Let's be real. You ignored Extra Emily and Emery during practice. Her chat turned on you. Wait, what? I did. I said, what's up? I said, hi. I was nervous. 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 This was nice.
No! Oh my God!
Yeah, it took me a week.
That's amazing!
I have the best fans, dude. I have the best community. I have the best community. This is amazing.
This is, what's your name?
Valerie.
Valerie, this is incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Oh my God, you're amazing.
Did you have more fun this year or last year? I mean, I don't know. Both years were fun. How do I turn this off? We have a new cooling unit in here, and it's just like, it's too cold. Did you go to Pride Day today? No, I slept. I slept the whole day. What is this timeline we're living in? Maybe for later? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, this was insane. This was also insane. Timeout on hate. Keep aura farming king. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Let's get started. Let's get started on the news. We got a lot to cover. So I guess we'll start with the we'll start with this investigation into attack on pro-Israel demonstration in Colorado.
Gathering
Some fucking psycho went up to a bunch of old Jewish people that were doing like a demonstration in support of Israel, and tried to like light them on fire or something. He was shirtless, you know, just real fucking insane shit. Oh, music is still playing. Thank you. Yeah, let's get started. He had like Molotov cocktails or something, I guess. He used a flamethrower and threw a yeah, someone said there was a flamethrower as well. The protest was to free the hostages. Yeah, it was it was like a pro-Israel protest, but it doesn't fucking matter what the protest was for. That's psychotic. What do you mean? Like, that's an insane thing to do. And this man is an insane person. Like, absolutely insane person. Thank God nobody fucking died. Holy shit. ICE was caught on video posting as utility workers. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But let's continue.
Community members in Boulder, Colorado. They were calling for the release of the hostages held by Hamas. 8 people hospitalized after witnesses say the attacker used a makeshift flamethrower.
Yeah, it's like, it does matter. You don't think a pro-Israel protest is psychotic in and of itself? Yes, it is. But you know what you can't do? Fucking throw Molotov cocktails at it. What are you, fucking stupid? Are you out of your mind? Are you fucking insane? Like, come on, dude. Jesus Christ. Yeah, what do you think? This is fucking Grand Theft Auto? What are you, fucking insane? Are you out of your mind? Are you a federal agent? Shut the fuck up.
And threw an incendiary device. The man was taken into custody at the scene. Mola Lenghi is in Boulder with the latest. Good morning, Mola.
Well, good morning, George. The FBI
Motherfuckers could do anything as long as they slap a free Palestine at the end of it. There's like dumb fucks that will go, oh, that was actually base. Like, you're a fucking moron, okay? Calm down.
Investigating this as a potential targeted act of terrorism. Witnesses here describing just a horrifying scene here at this outdoor pedestrian mall in Boulder. People being set on fire.
Great job for this guy. Fucking almost lit a dude who I guess survived the fucking Holocaust on fire. What are we doing? What the fuck are you talking about? Are you insane? Like 87-year-old Jewish dude who like or Jewish woman who fucking survived the Holocaust getting lit on fire. Not exactly great, you know? Are you insane? Yeah, this is like there are a lot of instances of direct action that is valid, valuable, reasonable, okay? This is not even in the range of appropriate behavior. Get the fuck out of here. No one is actually even supporting it. Someone just like tried to say some dumb shit and I immediately clamped on it.
People being set on fire.
There's multiple mixed reports about if people are on fire now. We're getting lots of 911 calls.
Police responding to a suspect armed with what officials say was a makeshift flamethrower who allegedly threw an incendiary device into the crowd. Witnesses say he yelled, "Free Palestine," during the attack.
I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. It was absolutely gruesome.
The FBI investigating what they're calling a targeted attack on a group of peaceful demonstrators who were raising awareness on the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza.
It is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating
Why do you think they're doing this? Is it because people feel increasingly desperate? Because nothing they do changes the government's course? I think that's part of it, but like, we're in America, man. We're in the United States of America. What do you think? People are fucking insane here, okay? America is a uniquely violent country, and I think a lot of people just kind of forget how, again, uniquely violent of a nation this is, okay? Wait, hold on. Like, there is a reason why the Palestinian movement, like, or Hamas, for example, has never had an instance of violence outside of the territory of historic Palestine. I talked about this when the embassy shooting happened, because they are laser focused on a singular goal. They are laser focused on a singular goal of ensuring that the occupation ends. Okay? And in the process, do they personally engage in heinous acts of violence? Yeah, of course. They have. It's ridiculous that that this kind of action is in any way, shape, or form associated with like the reasonable approach, like what the student movement has done. It's on the exact opposite end of the spectrum in terms of like productivity. It's not even like, this is just fucking, I mean, this is just like, this is violence for the sake of violence and nothing more. It's senseless fucking violence. That's it. Like, you're not, it is utterly directionless. Going to a fucking pro-Israel rally or going to a like free the hostages rally and dropping Molotov cocktails on like 87-year-olds is psychotic, dude. It completely fucking psychotic, completely unacceptable. Not only is it inhumane and insane, it's also entirely counterproductive. That's it.
As an act of terrorism.
Like, revenge is not justice, okay? Also, revenge against other random fucking people is extra not justice. It is completely injustice. It is unjust.
8 people between the ages
I don't even think this dude is like an anarchist or anything like that. He was like a fucking 40, 50-year-old guy, dude. I think he's a person who is unimaginably frustrated and like lost his fucking mind. I mean, you're talking about a dude who took a shirt off to like try to, you know, use Molotov cocktails on a bunch of old people, you know?
The 52 and 88 injured. 2 airlifted to burn units, 1 in critical condition. A source brief tells ABC News one of the victims.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's an Egyptian national who overstayed his visa, yes. And now they're going to fucking clamp down extra hard. Not only are they going to clamp down on, you know, people like me. Apparently, Jonathan Greenblatt is trying to say that, like, I'm responsible for this again, which is so insane. Dude. It's so psychotic. Like, the fuck are you doing, man? Again, yeah. Anytime any sort of, like, violence takes place against, like, a pro-Israeli rally or anyone out there, he just goes, oh, it's Hassan Piker's fault. Dude, what are you saying? What the fuck kind of psychotic nonsense is this? My number one op
is apparently a female Holocaust survivor. This video shows the suspect, according to an official briefed on the situation, holding what appears to be Molotov cocktails in front of a patch of burning grass, screaming at the crowd before being taken down by police.
He had 3 Molotov cocktails. One of them he threw inside of a group. At the group, and one lady lit on fire from head to toe.
There was a jug filled with the same stuff. I thought it was alcohol at first, but it smelled like gasoline. He was also taking this garden sprayer, basically, and spraying.
Every time a Palestinian is killed in the USA by some freak, do we now get to blame Greenblatt personally? Of course not. Like, of course not. Of course not. He has literally gone on television and been like, oh, if you're wearing a keffiyeh, it's basically a swastika, right? He says that without any fucking just cause whatsoever. And yet, when people who are wearing keffiyehs get fucking shot and paralyzed, like the shooter in Vermont that shot those 3 college students, obviously that's not Greenblatt's fault. You know what I mean? No one would ever say that. Because there's an overwhelming amount of, like, these things are not directional, okay? These things do not happen because of a singular person. Very rarely do these things happen because a person goes, oh, I got radicalized by this person and that's why I did it. Okay? It's a combination of systemic factors. Our social fabric is ripped apart at this point. Americans are insanely violent and insanely desensitized to violence. Part of that is because of all of the violence that we have subjected others to overseas, coming back around. All of the violence that American foreign policy creates for innocent individuals. No, I haven't watched Mountainhead, okay? Shut up about fucking Mountainhead. America's basically like a PvP on Grand Theft Auto lobby. But no, when someone who is pro-Palestine is subjected to violence, I don't think it's Jonathan Greenblatt's fault either, even though he does directly say things that would invoke a violent response that would urge people to take violent actions. It's also the same reason why I don't blame like Ethan Klein for, you know, being detained by Customs and Border Patrol. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I'm losing my fucking mind right now. Oh my God. The AC is not shutting off. I'm so pissed. My brother My whole family loves making fun of me for how much I love the AC and how much I turn on the AC, and now I can't even fucking turn it off. It's so cold.
People with this gasoline and fire and flames.
Authorities identifying 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Solomon as the suspect apprehended on scene.
This has every single sign of being a hate crime. The perpetrator was waiting for people who were engaging in peaceful activity. It was a group of Jews from Boulder.
Overnight, the FBI descending on the suspect's alleged...
I muted, yes, because I was talking to my brother. I was yelling at him. He was making fun of me for not being able to turn the AC off. Holy shit, that was so cold. The American state has endorsed insane violence overseas, and this emboldens violent and antisocial individuals within America. Violence abroad has altered the social contract in the most destructive way possible. Yes. Dude, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to talk to someone from the flotilla right now, okay? Chatter. What is this? Court proceedings in 20 minutes? Yeah, we'll get to that when it happens. Hold on. Let's finish
Residents in the Colorado Springs area, about an hour and a half from Boulder. The group, Run for Their Lives, meets weekly, ending their walk at this courthouse. Omar Shahar, who was leading the group, says he saw the man waiting for them before they were attacked.
You see fire under the legs of your friends in your community. You want to help them. And then this is when we all retreated and realized that he doesn't care. He's there to harm as much as possible.
Well, we're learning that the suspect was in the United States illegally, according to an official at the Department of Homeland Security. The Boulder County Jail database says the suspect is being held on a $10 million bond, in addition to a list of charges this morning, including attempted murder as well as murder. Now, we should note, according to police at least, that there have been no fatalities reported in this attack, but we are expecting more detailed, more formal information on these charges.
FBI says targeted terror attack on Colorado event for Israeli hostages. Yeah. Also, one other aspect of these kinds of like vigilante and I don't even want to call this like vigilante justice, because there is not, like, it's just a literally random unstable person behaving in an incredibly violent way. You know what I mean? It's like attempted fucking mass murder, basically. Okay? It's like beyond vigilantism. Once again, revenge is not justice, okay? This is something that I need to be very clear about. But outside of that, this is so perfectly designed for, one, the media cycle to immediately laser in on this. The dude himself is both Egyptian, I think he's Muslim, and a fucking undocumented migrant. It is so perfect for the Trump administration to basically kill as many fucking pro-Palestine people as possible by sending them over to see God and forgetting about them. You know what I mean? It's just, it moves the fucking conversation away from what happened a day prior to this, okay? Or the same day in the same fucking, bro, you are unhinged. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, it's terrorism. Bro, you are unhinged. Dude, you are fucking stupid. You are not listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. You are just in here to be like, Hassan thinks this is based. There's never been a moment where I've said this is based, okay? But you're not even listening, because if you were, you would understand that, no, of course this is a fucking completely unacceptable, insane act of fucking violence, you dumbass. Shut the fuck up. God damn. Fuck. What's wrong with these people, bro? I swear to God, everything. You're so deeply unserious that you look at a situation where a dude almost fucking lit a bunch of like old Jewish people on fire. Okay. Luckily, nobody died. And this motherfucker's first thing is, let me go farm some clips off of my favorite, like off of my least favorite content creator at the behest of my favorite content creator. Like, what's wrong with you? Be normal, dude. Fuck. So crazy. It's so fucking crazy that, like, for so many people, their understanding of politics is just basically fucking drama. Drama between, like, friction between their favorite and least favorite content creators. Like, there are literally tens of thousands of people online that just unironically view all of this, like, everything that pertains to like American foreign policy, American domestic policy off of like, does Hassan like this? Yes. If he likes it, I hate it. Does Hassan hate this? If he hates this, I like it. It is so insane. How can you be this rudderless? Make up your own fucking mind for once, dude. It's crazy. It blows my mind how brain broken so many people are. This is not team sports, man. Identify the issue at hand, please. What is this? You have the exact same understanding of politics, but replace content creators with country governments? First of all, this is an incredibly reductive attitude. This is an incredibly reductive attitude, but even then, the assessment is instantly different. You understand that, right? Because content creators are just content creators, okay? Especially ones that don't really know anything that they're talking about are additionally stupid to get your notes from. Having said that, once again, positioning yourself as like anti-government unconditionally would probably still be a step up, which is, again, not something that I do. If you think that I'm just blindly anti-Israel, you're fucking delusional. They bait you for clips to get you mad so they can say Hassan crashes out of his chat and you fall for it every time. Why entertain these bad faith dipshits? Yeah, I know. You're right.
The FBI is calling it an act of terror. In Boulder, Colorado, at least 8 people injured in an attack on a peaceful gathering in support of the Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. The images emerging are disturbing. Smoke seen rising at the scene. And this comes after the FBI says a man used makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. Witnesses described a horrifying scene.
From my point of view, all of a sudden I felt the heat, like it was a Molotov cocktail equivalent, a gas bomb in a glass jar thrown. I saw it, a big flame as high as a tree, and all I saw was someone on fire.
The suspect is under arrest. Law enforcement have identified him as 45-year-old Mohammed Solomon. CNN's Whitney Wild is at the scene in Boulder. She's joining us right now. Whitney, first and foremost, what are we learning about the victims this morning?
Well, what we know is that...
Thoughts on a potential false flag? No, dude, stop. I haven't seen enough details, but stop immediately assuming it's a fucking false flag, please. Jesus Christ, dude. Some of you guys are so unserious. This is just, again, another issue with like the way Americans view politics. Everything's a goddamn game. Everything's a goddamn conspiracy. Holy fuck. Sometimes what you see is what you get. Okay? Goddamn. It's so ironic that the last time this happened with the Israeli embassy staffer shooter, I covered extensively the misinformation that flies around, talking about how I don't think it's a false flag and covering it extensively, which led me to be banned for a day. Okay. One must ask why. Anyone instantly thinks something is a false flag. Okay. This happens with right wingers. This even happens with leftists as well. The reason why is partially because everyone's brain is cooked at this point. No one can just like look at a situation and instantly go, I don't think that's what you see is what you get. There always has to be an alternative. There always has to be an alternative explanation. Okay? You have to stop doing this. The other reason why people say this is because they understand that this is a ridiculous instance of violence that is horrifying and also horrible. It's horrifying. It's literally it will have immense negative consequences. So immediately people go cope mode and just go, oh, I think it's a false flag maybe. Like, that's bullshit.
Horrifyingly, one of them was also a Holocaust survivor, as you had mentioned earlier. They range in age, Kate, from 52 to 88 years old. What we know right now is very little about the extent of their injuries, but the little we do know, according to police, is that 2 people were airlifted to Denver area hospitals. 1 victim was very seriously injured. This was a horrifying attack, Kate, as you described. This man...
Boulder is not immune to tragedy. Sadly, and I know a lot of people are scared right now. A lot of people are upset and questioning how this happened and why. All I know is Boulder has recovered before from acts of violence, and we will again recover. I urge the community in this time to come together. Now is not the time to be divisive, and we will continue to ensure community safety along with all of our partners.
Kate, that help, that sense of community will be more important than ever as they try to move forward after this tragedy. Kate?
And what more are we learning about the suspect right now?
Well, some of these details are coming to light. Our law enforcement sources are telling CNN's John Miller that he had applied for asylum in the United States in 2005. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller tweeted that he was here illegally, saying that he had overstayed a tourist visa. Reeve reached out to ICE to try to find out more information on that. Kate, at the moment, he is in custody in Boulder. He was booked just before midnight last night. He's booked on multiple charges, including one count of explosive incendiary devices used during a felony. Again, much more to learn here, and we expect that more information will come forward at his first hearing at 1:30 this afternoon local time, Kate.
All right, Whitney, thank you very much. John?
All right, with us now are CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe and the aforementioned...
What? I think this was a guy that was on board with it until he realized the consequences of it. Then his acceptance of state violence allowed him to justify his retribution. Why do you report tweets as truthful? Are you talking to CNN? Oh.
Mentioned John Miller, CNN chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst. John, what else are you hearing from your sources right now?
Well, they're digging into the background of this individual, particularly looking at how he got here, when he got here, how he stayed here. But what you gather from careful viewing of the videos taken by people at the scene is, and this is going to be a large factor about charging decisions and motive, is he's yelling, "Free Palestine," according to police, but our review of the tape is also, he says twice, he yells, "We have to end Zionists." Oh, so that goes directly to motive. The chief called it's a targeted attack of hate. The FBI director called it an act of terrorism. And the fact that we see him at the scene, remaining on the scene, he did an attempt to flee. Nobody seems to be holding him back. Now, bear in mind, he's holding 2 different bottles of liquid with red rags coming out of them that could be other incendiary devices, but he remained on the scene. He did not resist when police took him down and handcuffed him. Very much like what we saw at the Jewish Museum in Washington just several days ago in an attack involving a gunman, whereas we're seeing what appears to be people answering the call from multiple platforms from foreign terrorist organizations, calling on people to act alone on U.S. soil against public events with rudimentary tools. And we're seeing them remain on the scene apparently to underscore that message and that motive.
So, Andrew McCabe, how do you go about an investigation like this? What are the key parts of it? And to that point that John Miller was just bringing up, these people being urged by organizations around the world to act on U.S. soil, how do you fight that?
Yeah, John. So what the investigators are doing right now is very similar work to the things we discussed in the aftermath of the shooting here in D.C. at the Jewish Museum. They, as we know, executed a search warrant at this person's residence last night, and that's an effort to collect all of the devices.
Dude, post 9/11, we're back. Post 9/11, war on terror, meta, Islamophobia. Oof, it is going to be so back. We need more surveillance. We got Palantir already fucking clocking every single piece of information about every single American. The surveillance state is about to go extra nutty. Now, obviously, we already have the Patriot Act. We already had the great expansion of the surveillance apparatus justified by 9/11. It is going to be, like, I don't think that if there are members within mainstream media that look at the situation and think to themselves like what the repercussions might look like, they are not pushing for that at all. Like, they are not pushing for restraint. A similar thing happened already when this kind of random acts of violence was not taking place. As a matter of fact, hate crimes were taking place against people who were pro-Palestinian under the Biden administration, and they still actively kept repeating over and over again that peaceful protests, peaceful nonviolent protests on college campuses that were super buttoned up were all actually heinous anti-Semitic acts of violence, the violence that people were being subjected to, right? They lied about that over and over again, and it gave a massive opening for Donald Trump to abuse and clamp down on as many student protesters as possible and start doing this insane immigration enforcement scheme. And now liberals are either quiet about it, supportive of it, like Deborah Lipstadt, Biden's anti-Semitism envoy, okay? People like that are basically supportive of this kind of thing. And then there are some liberals who go, oh, maybe we're going a bridge too far here. Lightly criticizing it, lightly criticizing the Trump administration's actions. But when moments like this take place, when things like this happen, the media once again kicks into high gear. And loses their mind on this. Like, oh, well, we have to be like, when you got liberal outlets turning around and basically saying like, we got to be more careful about who we let into the country. It's like, it's over. It's over. You are completely captive to the fascist administrative apparatus. You are doing their bidding. You are not thinking about liberalism, defending free speech, defending anything. You are allowing the Trump administration and the wave of hate that will come after this to take place. This is fucking terrifying. Acts of violence such as this one are completely unacceptable. Okay? But the way to cover this is to single out this act of violence, say it's abhorrent, say it's unacceptable, instead of just like washing an entire movement with the same fucking brush of violence to make it seem as though anyone that says free Palestine on a college campus is basically trying to light Jewish Holocaust survivors on fire that are 87 years old. Like, that's psychotic. Meanwhile, while this is happening, simultaneously, Marco Rubio is talking about individuals who criticize Israel will be denied entry visas into the United States.
We'll stand with the Jewish people. We have implemented a vigorous new...
This is fake. This is a fake video. I lied. Apparently it's AI. No, I don't care about this video, but this is, first of all, fuck this video, except the processing of people who are criticize Israel is real. That part is not fake. Hassan, you were duped. No, I just clicked on a video. I don't know if it's fucking real or not. But the part that is real is they are looking at people's social medias. Okay, that video, it might be AI. I don't give a shit. Someone fucking sent it to me. But the part that is real screening against criticisms of Israel is real. And it's been around for a minute. Fuck the AI video. This is real. They've been saying this. They have been. Part of this is the fact that they stopped the appointments and are now extending. They are extending the process of vetting to social media, where they are going to look through people's social media profiles before giving them access, giving them visa access into the country. And they are looking for any kind of fucking criticism of Israel on your social media activity. It is insane. This is directly a violation of the First Amendment. This is not fake. It's real. This part is real. I've covered it on this broadcast. U.S. Secretary of State.
We are holding international organizations and nations accountable for rhetoric against Israel that resurfaces in the manifesto of monsters like Iran and Sarah's killer. But we do see an eventual light at the end of this long tunnel of suffering.
Oh, this does sound like AI, by the way. This does unironically sound like AI. Like it has the markings of a fucking AI video. Like, it sounds, when like the robotic AI speech pattern, it has the robotic AI speech pattern. It also has the tint, like what is it called? It's not the dead eyes and the weird mouth movements. He is already, that's just him. He's a soulless monster. But yeah, there is a specific like tinny sound to AI audio, to AI audio. Like, it sounds like it's coming out of a tin can almost. That's why people are saying is AI potentially.
One can imagine a Middle East in which the Abraham Accords eventually reign. So thank you for the opportunity to address.
Yeah, this does look like this straight up looks AI. I don't know if it is. I mean, it's the fucking New York Post. They could very easily be duped. But it does feel like AI. Anyway, the video being AI doesn't change the reality that like they have unironically.
I want to begin.
Yeah, special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism officially posted this, so it's probably AI or not. This is literally something that the administration is fucking saying, okay? You are 6 months behind. Street interview VO6. Nope. You can't tell Neo Lud. Look up VO3 prompt theory. Dude, I know. We watched all of that. I talked about it already. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. You're so fucking brilliant, dude. I can't believe prompt theory.
I want to begin by thanking Foreign Minister Saar for this kind invitation, and I regret that I cannot be with you all in person.
He literally, dude, this, oh my God, this unironically sounds like fucking AI. It's crazy. Again, this is the official account of the federal government. This is from the official account of the Office of the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism in the United States. This is a part of the Department of State, and it literally sounds like AI, okay? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind a little bit. Oh God, my job has gotten infinitely harder. If my goal is to go through misinformation and try to correct the record in instances of in like random instances of violence or whatever the fucking government is doing, welcome to the fucking new world where half of the stuff that we're going to see, even coming from real outlets like this, could potentially be AI made but official. I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm going insane. Oh.
Golda Meir once said, "It took Moses 40 years to find the only place in the Middle East with no oil. But Israel's wealth lay not under the ground, but in its people, the Jewish people, exiles, pilgrims, and dreamers from around the world who made the desert bloom into a high-tech superpower." Israel accomplished this miracle not by abandoning its history and identity, but by embracing them.
I'm going to put you on a spaceship. If you fucking bring up Mountain Head one more time, I'm putting you on a rocket ship to Mountain Head. Okay, one-way ticket. Why are you playing a fake video, man? Dog, listen to me very carefully, okay? This is a video that the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism, which is an official State Department organization, okay? An official State Department organization posted. It sounds like AI. It could be AI, but it is official, okay? As in, you have to treat this as though Marco Rubio said these words. Marco Rubio has already said similar words 1,000,000 times over. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. My dad is watching some shit about AI in the background as well. What about this video seems fake? It's the tinny audio and the robotic sounds and the robotic movement that has like an AI. It's similar to how you hear like AI speech.
Sadly, some of Israel's neighbors have failed to appreciate how following Israel's example could have brought prosperity to the region. Instead, they chose war. They decided to impoverish their people in a futile effort to destroy Israel. They succeeded in the former, while failing in the latter. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest bigotry, and given that we are all here today, it is also the world's most futile. Egyptian pharaohs, Roman emperors, Persian shahs, and Middle Eastern despots have sought to destroy the nation of Israel.
I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. Dude, we are literally looking at Israel's fascist policies and going, please, can we have that here? We want to have that here. It's actually incredible what they've done. We should do it here. This is fucking insane. What is Kaya? Place. This does not look or sound like AI. It's a recording of him joining over Zoom. That's why it sounds like that. Our brains are all broken. This is just a real video. It does not look or sound like AI. AI is not that good yet. Yeah, anyway. While we were in the process of like trying to figure out whether this is fucking AI or not, regardless, this is a real thing that the administration is doing. Whether or not it's the video is AI or not, it's probably real, and it doesn't matter. It's yes, as some chatters pointed out, it's most likely because it's a Zoom recording. That's why the audio sounds like that, or maybe it's written by AI. That could also be a part of it. It doesn't fucking matter. Okay, what matters is what the administration is going to do in the aftermath of events like this. And I fear that they're going to actively suppress any kind of like in pro-Palestine speech. And the fact that the administration is basically saying like, we need to do what Israel is doing. We need to do what Israel is doing. Israel's doing a great job. We got to do exactly what they're doing should be terrifying for Americans. Okay. Israel has incredible censorship, even for the Israeli population. Okay? They have a military censor. They do not have free speech in Israel. America has free speech. So seeing so many of these like supposedly right-wing pro-free speech accounts unironically lap up whatever the fuck the ADL is saying in an effort to get the government to go after people that they don't like, content creators that they don't like, simply because it's a position that I have taken is insane, okay? Holy moly, this is terrifying.
And things he might have in his house that indicate who he's been in contact with, what he's been looking at on the internet, what he's been writing, things that he's been searching in his online search history. It uncovers both his motive and it gives investigators a view into his network of contacts, because what they're looking for right now is exactly what you just suggested, to see if anyone helped him plan this event, helped him train for it, helped him acquire the materials that he needed to pull it off, or was he simply inspired by events he saw and was, harboring grievances about things that he saw online and that were happening overseas in Gaza and other places. This is going to help investigators understand whether or not he had co-conspirators who might also have culpability in this attack, or if he simply acted alone, lone offender, driven by grievance and, kind of went down this path towards extremism by himself. So a lot of very important questions for them to uncover in the next few days and hours, really. And we know that they're well on their way to doing that with that search warrant.
And John, we use the term lone actor. In your experience, and you both have, unfortunately, a lot of experience, fortunately for us, because we get to lean on your expertise, unfortunately, because these things have happened before.
I bet the CIA is radicalizing and pushing these guys online. I don't think they need the CIA to get radicalized online. We have no support network for the average person, okay? And an unlimited amount of access to weapons, an incredible predisposition towards doing violent things in general. America's a powder keg. I say this all the fucking time. There's also a backdrop of a live streamed child Holocaust that's taking place on top of everything else. That's it.
When we talk about someone acting alone, how alone? I mean, completely alone, no contact with anyone else, or how often do you start to see some tentacle spreading?
Anything is in the range of possibility, including that a handler from a foreign terrorist organization or someone else directed him, told him what to do and how to do it. But what we're seeing pretty consistently is the opposite of that, which is people are going online, they are taking in the propaganda, they are considering the calls to violence, and they are going to public events, the Jewish Museum attack. They are picking specific targets. There's a person who is believed to be mentally unstable with a history of drug addiction who jumped over the fence with Molotov cocktails, set the Pennsylvania governor's house on fire after Passover dinner. So we're seeing these repeated incidents of individuals who are working with low-cost firearms, edged weapons, Molotov cocktails, low-tech, not putting together a complicated IED, high impact in that these rudimentary attacks garner a lot of attention.
And the targets, Andy, I mean...
Yeah, look, the U.S. ambassador to Israel would like to state for the record that journalists correctly reporting on well-documented Israeli massacres in Gaza are causing terrorist attacks. Reckless and irresponsible reporting by major U.S. news outlets are contributing to the anti-Semitic climate that has resulted in the murder of 2 young people at an Israeli embassy event in Washington last month and the attempted murder and terror attack on a group of pro-Israel demonstrators in Colorado Sunday. Without verification of any source other than Hamas and its collaborators, the New York Times, CNN, and Associated Press reported that a number of people seeking to receive humanitarian food box from the Gaza Humanitarian Fund were shot or killed by the Israeli Defense Forces. These reports were false. Drone video and first-hand accounts clearly showed that there were no injuries, no fatalities, no shooting, no chaos. It is Hamas that continues to terrorize and intimidate those who seek food aid. The only source for these misleading, exaggerated, and utterly fabricated stories came from Hamas sources, which are designed to fan the flames of anti-Semitic hate that is arguably contributing to violence against Jews in the United States. Media sources who willingly parrot these libelous allegations should recant their fake news stories, apologize, and pledge to practice actual reporting. Say 10 Am Israel highs for you, okay? Here is Yona Lieberman from If Not Now that presents a great point. The news cycle underway will include countless people talking about how the attack in Boulder came only 10 days after the attack in D.C. In that time, Israel's killed 700 plus people in Gaza. The horrors in Gaza do not justify violence here, but that fact should be known. Debunking live stream event and trying to lie about it to people is so pointless. Who do they think they are talking to? It's so incredible that this is the quiet part being said out loud. There is a reason why Israeli envoys, ambassadors to Israel, and numerous Israeli politicians in the aftermath of violence like this will quickly turn around and say, you know who bears the responsibility here? People who are correctly pointing out Israel's violent actions, because they are the ones who are radicalizing people. Okay? That's an insane statement to make. Like, it's not just people like myself, right? Obviously, the ADL has directed the crosshairs, directed the attention at me specifically, okay? Because right after the Israeli embassy staffer shooting and right after this, Jonathan Greenblatt goes on television and immediately goes, this is Hassan's fault, which is psychotic, okay? Jonathan Greenblatt has played a larger role in the dangerous conflation of Jews and Israel, more so than anyone else. I work to try every single day to decouple Judaism and Zionism from one another, when Jonathan Greenblatt and many others are actively trying to say, no, you don't understand. This is the truth. It is what it is. Israel is doing this for Jewish people. It's horrifying. Here it is.
And what I really want is, whether it's social media influencers on Twitch and YouTube like Hassan Piker, or other kind of promoters of hate on YouTube and TikTok like Guy Christensen, or like, these speakers at these graduations. It just happened.
Yeah, see? All of his smoke is for, like, speakers at graduations, like people that say Israel's doing a genocide, which is correct. Israel is doing a genocide. Like, people like myself who correctly say Israel's an apartheid state doing a genocide. People that are speaking at graduation, correctly pointing out that Israel's doing a genocide. These are the people who are radicalizing people. It's like, no, dude, it's the fucking fact that Israel's doing a genocide that is radicalizing people. Okay? That's insane. Like, the argument that a lot of these guys are trying to present here basically is that Israel should be able to do a genocide and you shouldn't actually call it out, because if you call it out, then you're radicalizing people against Israel. You're radicalizing people to doing violence. That's an insane fucking statement. Do you not care about the violence that Israel is subjecting the Palestinian people to? Obviously, Jonathan doesn't give a shit. His stated purpose, his singular goal is basically to, do propaganda at the behest of Israel.
The other day at MIT, spreading blood libels about the Jewish people or the Jewish state, it creates the conditions in which this kind of act is happening with increasing frequency. We've got to stop it once and for all. I hope the Trump administration will do just that.
Well, the fact,
and what I really,
yes, for the record, yes, it's not just me. It is the United Nations that's also contributing to the radicalization. People obviously try to hone in and laser focus on their fucking assessments here. They try to hone in. They try to hone in and laser focus on targets that are priority targets for them. But yes, just like this U.S. ambassador to Israel is claiming here, okay, Michael Fuckabee, it's all the journalists. When Israel actually ends up killing hundreds of Palestinians, overwhelming majority women and children and the elderly, and the media reports on it as Israel has done this, all of a sudden, this is blood libel. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what are you doing? You're bringing negative attention to the state of Israel. It's just, fuck, man. It's so messed up. It's so busted. You are a very easy target. I don't think I'm a very easy target. I'm just, I'm just someone who he can singularly focus on to actively pressure and try to get banned. And it's because I'm one of the biggest targets. That's it. I'm one of the loudest voices with a major platform. Obviously, yeah, getting banned off Twitch is the least of my worries, but yeah. Just a few short months ago, it was blood libel to say Israel deliberately struck aid trucks and targeted relief workers. If they hit this flotilla like they've done before, you'll have about a day of acknowledging reality before it goes back under the blood libel tab. Yep. Like it literally, they already struck many aid workers. They've killed hundreds of aid workers. They've killed hundreds of journalists in Palestine. And I don't think these guys understand, or they do understand. They're just like actively trying to avoid the truth and the responsibility that is in the hands of Israel. And actually those who keep consistently saying that Israel is doing this for Jewish people. If you criticize this, you hate Jewish people. Actively pairing Judaism with Israel's actions is unimaginably damaging. It is as if CARE and every single like Muslim advocacy group was running around constantly saying, ISIS represents Islam. It represents true Islam. If you criticize ISIS, you are Islamophobic. Okay? Ironically enough, that negative association with Islam was made by not Muslims, but actually those who wanted to damage Muslims living in the West. But this time around, it is being used, this conflation, this dangerous conflation between Judaism and Israel is being used and weaponized by those in positions of power, positions of prominence. It is so incredibly fucking frustrating to see unfold in broad daylight, right in front of our eyes. Oh, it's not commentary on Israel's action, but the actions of Israel itself that's radicalizing people. The logical endpoint is banning non-state sanctioned journalism on Gaza, similar to the military censorship in Israel. I know. That is not just the logical endpoint. That is the goal. That is the stated goal. That's what it is. That's the issue. Everyone is lying. Like, this is what the pro-Israeli position has become. Everyone is lying about Israel, except for those who directly work with the Israeli state, okay? Every single person. They say that the BBC is lying. They say the New York Times is lying, even though their coverage on Israel is entirely slanted in favor of Israel, constantly contextualizing the violence that Israel subjects the Palestinians to. Israel flunkies are so far gone that they genuinely believe the entire world is lying, and only repeatedly discredited Israeli propagandists can be trusted as far as they are concerned, says Moin Rabbani. Literally everyone is lying. The eyewitnesses, the wounded, the relatives of the dead, the medics who treated them, the reporters who collected and record evidence, the journalists and editors who verify the facts, the officials who make statements about these reports, the psychotic lunatics genuinely believe it is they who are the victims of a global conspiracy so vast that they are alone are not a part of it. Most bizarrely of all, these flunkies are absolutely convinced that if they collectively chant blood libel often and loudly enough, reality will simply disappear. The members of this genocidal cult didn't drink the Kool-Aid. They never needed any. Yeah, I am reminded of what Yair Lapid said once. Objective reporting serves Hamas. It was an accident, but it was a truthful moment.
I mean, soft targets. I mean, you're talking about a mixer in Washington, D.C. You're talking about effectively a peace march in Boulder with elderly marchers, including potentially a Holocaust survivor there. If you were still at the FBI, what would your outreach be to Jewish organizations around the country engaged in, honestly, everyday life?
John, this is the dilemma that's confronted the Jewish community for years, and it is getting markedly worse. The ADL clocked over 9,000 anti-Semitic
like they're packaging this with like ADL's ridiculous new metrics for anti-Semitic incidents, which by ADL's own admission, is literally instances of real anti-Semitism, and then also instances of people saying free Palestine. Okay, from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free. Like that is considered an anti-Semitic incident. It's ridiculous. The premier institution that is designated, that is tasked with combating anti-Semitism, is doing this conflation itself. Americans ultimately are selfish people. Okay? They're ultimately selfish people. If they see the ADL's actions as taking away their rights, while simultaneously packaged as like protecting Israel's feelings, and also claiming that this is being done for Jewish people, they will negatively polarize against not only Israel, but also Jewish people. Okay? This is how anti-Semitism festers.
Incidents last year, which was up 5% from 2023. The Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism tells us that 68% of the religious motivated hate crimes in this country, 68% are committed against Jewish people. while at the same time Jewish people comprise only 2.5% of the population. No one has done more than the Jewish community to try to protect their institutions, their community centers, their synagogues, than the Jewish community with organizations like the Secured Communities Network that does an amazing job in providing security assessments to Jewish communities around the country and helping them build up the sort of systems they need to stay safe. But the facts are what they are. Targeting of the Jewish community has increased markedly, particularly in the wake of the October 7th attack on Israel, and there is no sign that this is going to stop. So they need to kind of continue this very expensive, very labor-intensive effort to secure their institutions, but they also need to think about these soft targets. Anytime there is a public gathering of Jewish people to do anything, to commemorate a Jewish holiday, to speak out about the hostages currently held in Gaza, as we saw yesterday, public knowledge of that event turns it into a target, and they need to think very carefully about how they're going to secure those events.
A necessary but tragic commentary on the situation. Andrew McCabe, John Miller, thanks to both of you.
Gruesome Colorado terror attack, a wake-up call for every American. All right. Look, every single one of these instances, whether valid or invalid, and this is a valid instance of the media basically weaponizing a valid instance of fucking direct violence against undeserved, like people that did not deserve to be fucking lit on fire, okay? Make no mistake. But no matter what happens, there's always a very quick turnaround on victimhood narratives. This is a real instance of victimhood, and they will pump this as hard as they can, okay? The media will pump this as hard as they can, and turn around and dominate the news and media cycle with this. Don't fucking, don't, like, random acts of violence are completely fucking unacceptable. I cannot believe how desensitized every individual American is to all of this violence. Like, think about it this way. This person is not incorrect. Like, there was a bomb that exploded, a car bomb that exploded outside of an in vitro fertilization, not an abortion clinic, but an in vitro fertilization clinic, okay? That happened like 2 weeks ago. We've already gone. We've moved past it. Like, nothing sticks anymore. It's so fucking crazy. Nothing gets any coverage whatsoever. This most likely will also pass as well. We'll just instantly move on. It is crazy. That happened like 2 weeks ago. We are so insanely used to unlimited violence. It almost leads to the opposite outcome in almost every case because it can be spun against a movement. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, this person is not like, this is not the intended outcome of this movement. And they are trying to do the same thing that they did to Black Lives Matter, okay? Being like, oh, this person was violent against cops, like, or he said something about, like, fuck pigs or whatever. This is an incredible amount of violent sentiment coming from the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, we have to actively stop this. It's the same principle. Were there real instances of violence directed against cops? Certainly. I'm sure it happened. Okay. Of course. Was the overwhelming majority of the protests peaceful? Yes. The only instance where, like, those protests would turn into riots would be as a direct consequence of police brutality at a fucking police brutality protest. Something I will never forget was there's also, especially in like these organized protests, there are always agents of propaganda that infiltrate these protest movements and engage in incredibly fucking violent acts, okay? One of the greatest examples of this was the Jiffy Lube that burned down in one of the first ever Black Lives Matter protests. The person who did that was a white supremacist, okay? An agent provocateur, a white supremacist that looked like a fucking cop that they identified him, but they never actually caught him, if I remember. Or it's not Jiffy Lube, sorry, AutoZone. It was the AutoZone. It was the umbrella guy, you remember? At the time I covered it and I said, this looks very suspicious. This looks like a person who is there as an agent provocateur, explaining what agent provocateurs are. One of the biggest problems and divisive tenets of being pro-Palestine versus pro-Israel is that the acts of violence like these are used to cement both sides, and in a weird way, they can be twisted in both of those ways. More anti-Semitic violence equals pro-Israel people will even be more sure in the need of a Jewish state, and will also compel pro-Palestine people to be even more sure that Israel's actions contribute to more anti-Semitism globally. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this extensively as well. Obviously, like Israeli officials don't care about anti-Semitism. They actually like when anti-Semitism happens in the West. That is the reason why they have no issue collaborating with like active anti-Semitic politicians, because if anti-Semitism increases in the West, Jews in diaspora will feel more terrified and will want to work with Israel and defend Israel and actively keep sending support to Israel, even if they don't live in Israel. And the best possible outcome, obviously, would be for people to flee the West, Jews to flee the West and go to Israel directly and live there. But if they won't do that, then they will at least defend Israel. Anyway, umbrella guy was a St. Paul police officer. The auto zone was across the street from where I worked, which also burned down. Lol. No, the umbrella guy was a police officer. The other guy was a white supremacist, I think. I'm pretty sure there was a white supremacist dude that like threw the first brick through the auto zone. Ultimately, none of this changes the dynamic on the ground for Palestinians. There is still a fucking genocide going on, okay? The focus on issues like this obviously are as a direct consequence of people that caring more about what happens in their own backyard and the fears that they have. This leans perfectly into said fears that people have about like the crazy, scary Muslims doing violence in the middle of Aurora, Colorado. Like that's all of a sudden that violence is in your backyard. You care more about that, obviously, than you do about whatever's going on over there in Gaza, right? The other secondary consequence, of course, is to hit the Israel is under attack. Israel and Israel defenders are under attack, and in this circumstance, it is valid as far as a bunch of people that were victimized unjustly by some fucking insane person. And ultimately, all that does is move the attention away and the focus away from Israel's actions. Alonso responds to Eyal, who said, "You know what we never see? Pro-Israelis violently attacking Palestinians in the United States. I keep hearing Zionists are violent, yet only one side continuously perpetrates heinous acts of terrorism," which of course is obviously an incredibly stupid thing to say. U.S. woman indicted for attempt to drown 3-year-old Palestinian American girl, stabbed 26 times, a 6-year-old Palestinian child killed, and his mother injured in a hate crime. After chemical attack on pro-Palestine students, Colombia won't back down. Colombia protected the person who actually pepper sprayed the pro-Palestinian students in Columbia campus. Obviously, there's the Palestinian student that was shot in Vermont and is paralyzed from the chest down. All of those instances. Also, the encampments that Zionists attacked in UCLA. That was another crazy fucking instance. There's the guy in Miami who shot the 2 Israelis who he thought were Palestinian. I don't think Eyal is this ignorant, says Alonso. I do think he's malicious and could not care less about the 6-year-old Palestinian kid stabbed to death, or even the 2 Jewish guys attempted assassination of 2 Israeli Jews because the other American Florida Jewish guy thought that they were fucking Palestinian. Ironically enough, the Israeli Jews also thought the person who was shooting at them was also Palestinian. That story did not even make a blip in the fucking media cycle because it could not be used. And the only reason why there was any coverage whatsoever is because initially they thought it was a hate crime. So they covered it, and then they very quickly found out that both the perpetrator and the victims were Jewish. Another instance that perfectly proves the point that if you are pro-Palestine in any capacity, you are unimportant and you will never be covered is if there is an Israeli Jewish person that goes into a pro-Palestinian protest and gets beaten up, an Israeli Jewish woman with an Israeli passport that goes into a pro-Palestinian protest and gets beaten and bloodied, okay? People are like throwing bricks at her. These pro-Palestinian protesters throwing bricks at her. That dominates discourse. This is a heinous act of violence. Except that did happen. but it wasn't actually an Israeli Jewish woman going to a pro-Palestinian protest. It was an Israeli Jewish woman that was an anti-Zionist that went to Itamar Ben-Gvir's speaking engagement and protested said speaking engagement and was brutalized by Orthodox Jews in America who were Itamar Ben-Gvir fans. That is the reason why you never actually heard about this story at all. This happened in New York City. So even if you are an Israeli passport holding dual citizen who is both Israeli and American, and you go and you protest a fascist speaking engagement on U.S. soil, and the people that are there, the little fascist supporters are there beating the shit out of you, it doesn't actually turn into a story that drives the media discourse. Yeah, they threw a rock at her head. The double standard is glaring. Anyway, none of this is going to stop me from saying what I believe, even if at times you don't agree with what I'm saying. Maybe you have fucking more radical opinions than myself or whatever. I don't give a shit, okay?
Suspect said not only free Palestine yesterday, but he said in Israel. I mean, the state charges are one thing, but federal terrorism.
Were actually on his side, arguing for him, which didn't make sense. Hats off to the officers who made it there quickly so that they could arrest him. Dan Bongino, Dan Bongino, the FBI number 2 there, said the leadership team is there on the ground with the FBI. The National Counterterrorism Center is there, according to Tulsi Gabbard, and local law enforcement is also investigating.
But here's the thing. Here illegally. Asked for asylum during the Biden years. They said no, but he kicked it out. Then somehow he gets a work visa to stay. Does anyone interview these people?
But Brian, it expired in March.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't be here.
Shouldn't have been extended to begin with. This is why Tom Homan and what the military is doing at the border and our great border patrol is doing matters as much too. We got to get these people who are breaking our laws. Stop telling me they belong in the community and they're one of us. They go to the blue states, the blue cities, where they can thrive, and in this case, attack.
Not just that, Brian, what Marco Rubio is doing with the visas as well at the State Department. If you don't love this country, if you're going to cause harm to people in this country, you got to go. Yeah. Let's bring in former Deputy Envoy Combat and Anti-Semitism, Eli Kohanim, onto the program. Eli, we want to get your general reactions to what's happening here, but a few questions about what's happening when it comes to the protest there. They're saying from the river to the sea. They're saying a global intifada, and they're saying free Palestine. What does that mean? Because these same people that are committing these acts of terrorism are saying those same chants.
Lawrence, that's an excellent question, and I think that this latest heinous terror attack against Jewish Americans by this foreign national who burned Jews alive yesterday has to be a wake-up call for every American. I call upon all Americans to now stand up with your Jewish neighbors and friends and say enough is enough. We need to face the facts that this so-called Free Palestine movement is in fact a pro-terror movement, and we need to draw the line in the sand. There can be no longer any tolerance for this movement.
Okay, sure. Like, what an insane fucking statement, dude. Yeah. Nope, no more. Please, you have to stop. You have to stop allowing people from saying free Palestine or that like Israel is doing a genocide. You know what I mean? You have to. You have to say Israel is awesome and good. Otherwise, anything short of saying Israel is great means that you want Jews to be burned alive is a psychotic fucking statement. And I'm repeating myself over and over again. This is not about, for some people that are in media, sure, they think this is a great way to defend Jewish people, right? For many, it's about defending the state of Israel. But for the administration, this has nothing to do with defending Israel and nothing to do with, even less to do with defending Jews, and everything to do with eroding the First Amendment, shredding free speech, eroding it by continuing along the same state trajectory that accelerated state surveillance in the aftermath of 9/11. Okay? This is precisely what's going on, and so many people do not understand how dangerous this is. If you think even for a fucking moment that Trump cares about Jewish people, you are the biggest delusional asshole on the fucking planet. Okay? Trump does not give a singular solitary shit about Jewish people. He does not care. There are an endless amount of pro-Israeli groups that have masqueraded as Jewish advocacy groups that has basically masqueraded as Jewish advocacy groups that actively have a lot of speaking space and a lot of influence in liberal circles, both in mainstream media and in liberal circles in general. Trump recognizes, or at least Trump's advisors recognize, the influence and power that these groups have. Their goal is to undermine the First Amendment. Their goal is to undermine free speech. And that is the reason why they're doing this by the point of immigrant enforcement first and foremost, because they think this is the most successful, the easiest route into undermining First Amendment protection. And they're using the existing network of influence of Jewish advocacy groups that are actually Israel advocacy groups to do this, to move alongside the guidelines that Project Esther outlined. Okay, that's it.
Which has left two Jews dead in the last 10 days, and now again a Jew, a Holocaust.
What is this? This isn't a dishonest representation of the view of the Western Jewish diaspora. Many do think Free Palestine represents the same danger of a mentally unwell man with a flamethrower. The ADL reflects faithfully the opinion of large amounts of the diaspora, and it's incredibly dangerous to ignore this. Oh, dude. First of all, even that is not completely correct. And even if it was, it still doesn't change the reality. Who gives a fuck? Not only are you not correct, but also, even if you were, who gives a fuck? Like, what do you mean? If 100% of Jews in diaspora felt this way, which obviously is not the fucking case, okay, that doesn't change the dynamic at all. What do you mean it's dangerous to fucking ignore this? Why? People who are quick to say, oh, you're doing Jewish exceptionalism, will unironically do that themselves. Okay? Like, that wouldn't all of a sudden make it the truth. You know what I mean? Also, Jews in diaspora is a statement that I find frustrating, even though I sometimes accidentally apply it as well. These are not Jews in diaspora. These are American Jews, okay? What the fuck? They're not living in diaspora, even though the Jewish nation state is Israel and they should be in Israel. Like, no, these are dudes who have been living here for fucking hundreds of years, or families that have been living here for hundreds of fucking years. They're just as American as every single person. It's not like they were born in fucking, all Jews are born in Israel. Then they just like come to the United States of America. What the fuck are we talking about? They're Americans. And ultimately, it still has nothing to do with Judaism. It is a weaponization. It is reactionary thought, Islamophobia, and a fuck ton of social conditioning that comes from Zionist groups early on. And in spite of that, this generation of Jews, like young Jews in America, have similar opinions to the other non-Jewish groups in the country. This is a generational divide.
A survivor is burned alive on American soil. This is just not America. This is not our values. And to that point, you know, as you just mentioned, Mohammed Solomon, the perpetrator, is an Egyptian national. He was let into our country by the Biden administration. And so the Biden administration's failed immigration policies are not victimless. In this case, it is Jewish Americans who are the victims. But let me remind everything, the hatred that starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. And so truly all Americans are potential victims for these failed immigration policies.
Ellie, I've interviewed the lawyers for the hostage families. They have got...
It's so funny that a chatter said Nazis love you now. America First Post News. This is a Nazi outlet. America First Post News. Okay, Post. After ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt called for his deplatforming, Hassan Piker has been suspended from Twitch. And half of these motherfuckers are literally saying, like, these guys are anti-Semitic, okay? Obviously, they're insanely anti-Semitic. They're fucking Nazis. And they're celebrating the ADL in the most anti-Semitic ways possible. I wonder why. I wonder why The fucking neo-Nazi followers here are going rare. I guess like this is they're saying like rare Jew win or something, like Juice Box knows. I assume he's saying Jews. They're literally siding with the fucking ADL. Okay. Do you understand? Yeah. W. Like, think about that, dude. And IG just allows this. Of course IG allows this. Oh.
Got a direct line between Iran, the Hamas, and these college kids on campus who are a lot of times in their late 20s and 30s. Like Mahmoud Khalil is 30 and graduated from graduate school. They don't belong here. What are you doing? Number two is this has got to be unwound. We can't just say, oh, this crazy guy came to New York, did something, came to D.C. or blew up Josh Shapiro's house.
I'm anti-Semitic, but I hate terrorists more. Release the hostages and surrender. If that pissant Hassan says free Palestine one more time on stream, he should be jailed. Wait, lol, why is a fascist anti-Semite like yourself so invested in censoring pro-Palestine speech? Interesting. Dude, I see this all the time on Twitter, man. These people literally hate Jews, okay? They are neo-Nazis, but they hate me more, surprisingly enough. Actually, not surprisingly, unsurprisingly. You want to know why? Because I'm not fucking anti-Semitic. If I was, they would love me. I'm catching it from fucking both ends here. Groups that are supposed to be tasked with combating anti-Semitism coming out and fucking actively calling for my deplatforming, and the neo-Nazis that otherwise hate Jews aligning with the fucking ADL. Yo, Hassan, do you think Ye will ever go back to normal? I don't know. Ugh. Zayd Jelani says the Hasbara obsession with protesters is odd to me because I think 0% of change in American public opinion about Israel has to do with the protest. Basically, Americans are watching Israeli ministers say they want to destroy Gaza and starve Palestinians and then do it. If Hasbara could figure out a way to repeal the First Amendment and then ban all Israeli speech on American internet, that might do it. Short of that, I don't think any level of censorship will reverse this trend. The number one thing Israelis could do to improve the image of Israelis is to change Israeli conduct. Actually, the number 1 to number 100 things, because nothing else will make any difference whatsoever. This is also correct. Like this is it. And I don't think people who are pro-Israel understand that. Like they just don't. They don't understand it at all. They don't give a shit. They're like, shut the fuck up. It's so arrogant too. It's so unimaginably entitled. It's so unimaginably arrogant. It's so ridiculous where it's just like, no, we get to say babies are my enemy. And then we get to kill babies. And then in the Western world, if you cover that and you go, this is insane. If you cover that and you go, this is a fucking insane thing to say. This is Hitlerian. All of a sudden, you're the number one anti-Semite and you need to be silenced. It's like, bro, what are you doing? We are completely liberal media is completely dropping the ball on this too. Like their coverage on this stuff is so ass. Like, look at this, dude. Look at this shit. Lindsey Graham, I hope Greta and her friends can swim. Greta Thunberg set sail with Gaza flotilla that aims to break the Israeli naval blockade to offer aid to the starving Palestinians. Israel shot the last ship off the coast of Malta, thousands of miles away from the Israeli coastline. It didn't even make a blip in mainstream media. They shot the last flotilla ship off of the coast of Malta, okay? And now you have American politicians saying, I hope Israel shoots your fucking ship and you drown in the water. This is not the first time that Israel's done this. There was another humanitarian aid flotilla, Mavi Marmara, that was trying to bring in aid to the Palestinians all the way back in, I believe, like 2013 or 2014. Israel shot that ship, that humanitarian aid ship, and then killed a bunch of people in it, killed a bunch of humanitarian activists in the ship. 2011, 2010. No, it wasn't 10 years ago. Mavi Marmara was before then.
And then just burn somebody alive in Boulder, Colorado. These are just crazy people. There is direct links. That's right. And we're good at doing that. Ever since Al-Qaeda and 9/11, we've pulled back on that. But we got to get back to that right now and start identifying the direct line to Gaza and Iran.
Exactly right, Brian. And look, this is part of what the Trump administration is doing in the short time that President Trump and the admin is now back in office. So what you're pointing to, Brian, is indeed the links between what's happening here on U.S. soil and foreign countries like the Islamic Republic of Iran. Look, under Biden...
Dude, is so wild. We need to bring back Islamophobia, like as though it went away. You know, we've been too quiet about these fucking Muslims in our ranks. We got to bring it back in a big way. Incredible stuff. Oh my Lord.
And the DNI at that time Avril Lavigne came on the air and said that Iran was in fact funding some of the pro-terror, pro-Hamas movement on our campuses, and that perhaps unbeknownst to our American students, they were actually in touch with Iranian agents. So yes, this is absolutely correct that we've got foreign countries that are funding, perhaps organizing some of this activity.
They told the hostages that.
Yes.
They told him that in the tunnels.
That's right.
While they're being held, he says, we have links and we have supporters in American...
This, by the way, was one of the most insane lawsuits that were launched by some of the Israeli hostages that were freed that work with like all these apartheid defense league style Israel advocacy groups. It is so nutty to me that is unironically something that these guys are openly entertaining, and no one turns around and makes fun of them. You know, no one turns around and goes, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Yeah, here is Tim Barker, who's an OSINT guy, who's a good OSINT guy. He said, I went back and looked up Hassan Nahan's initial response to 10-7. His statement is one that any decent person could easily co-sign. I am not going to be one of those people that says like, oh, they're settlers. They deserve the violence. They deserve getting shot in the street. No, nobody deserves that, Piker said of the Israeli victims before speaking at length about what he described as the inevitability of Hamas's October 7 attack, blaming it on Israel's treatment of Palestinians in Gaza. This has been my fucking statement. It is objectively a correct statement. Oh, idea that like there are people who are entertaining the notion that like Hamas is actually funding the protests or has like a direct line of communication with the fucking American college campus protesters is one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. That was from the Jewish Insider article, by the way, that was calling me anti-Semitic. Despite Hassan's well-documented record of anti-Semitic hate, prominent journalists and liberal podcasts have frequented his online show. Oy, oy, oy. Piker problems. From Gabby Deutsch from December 4th. She also recently had this to say. Hassan Piker is now saying the quiet part out loud, that Hamas is good, actually. This streamer has 2.9 million followers on Twitch and major profiles on New York Times, CNN, NBC, Vox, Rolling Stone, et al. All seeking his wisdom on how DEM should reach young people. Is this how? I said, there is no comparison between Israel and Hamas. One is a militant resistance comprised of orphan soldiers born into a 77-year occupation. The other is an ethno-religious supremacist apartheid state with nukes doing a genocide backed by the USA. What did I say here that is wrong? First of all, this is just a factual statement. If you consider this factual statement to mean to imply that Hamas is good, then that's on you. You don't like the truth. This is the objective truth. It just doesn't look good for Israel. And that is precisely the reason why you're making a big fuss about it. That's it. This is at the heart of all of the, oh, this guy is terrorist. This guy is pro-terrorism. This is where all of the argument ends and begins. Okay? That's all this is. Some examples, they aren't hard to find. Here's USA Today columnist opting not to consider concerns about anti-Semitism from Piker. Nothing to see here, basically. And if there is, he wouldn't have tens of thousands of people listening to him daily if his ideas weren't popular. He tweeted more about me than he tweeted about his own district, Piker said, noting that Torres comes from the poorest congressional district in the nation. That's crazy. That's not normal. That isn't the only skirmish he's had with Democrats. In November 2024, Representative Richard Torres, D of New York, called on Twitch to investigate Piker for using anti-Semitic rhetoric. Piker said the reaction was unwarranted and in bad faith. He also gets a lot of heat from the right. Fox News aired a segment calling out his pro-Hamas radical anti-Semitic views, lamenting that he has any influence. Despite the people who perceive him as too extreme, it's clear he's doing something right. He wouldn't have tens of thousands of people listening to him daily if his ideas weren't popular. I think a lot of people, if they were truly invested in combating anti-Semitism, would recognize I am one of their greatest fucking allies. But they are so goddamn invested in defending Israel that they just can't comprehend that someone could hate Israel and not be anti-Semitic in the process. That's it. You just don't like that I'm correctly calling out Israel for being correctly saying that Israel is an apartheid state that is doing an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's it. You don't like that. You don't fucking like that. It's annoying to keep tweeting about this, but when a person continuously named by serious people as someone who the Democratic Party should pay attention to now says Hamas are the good guys in the conflict, it matters. Remember, I didn't even fucking say that. You did. Like, I am just as critical of Saudi Arabia as I am of Israel, okay? On numerous fronts. Nobody's going to fucking turn around and be like, Hassan is a dangerous Islamophobe for criticizing the Muslim nation of Saudi Arabia. That's where Mecca is. That's where Medina is. It is the most important nation for Islam. Nobody says that. And if someone were to say that, I would laugh at them, okay? It's so fucking stupid. Elise Stefanik, the loudest cheerleader for the ongoing mass murder of the Palestinian people, responded to the attack on Israel supporters in Boulder by calling for CARE, a Muslim civil rights group that defends Muslim Americans from discrimination and violence, to be designated as a terrorist organization. Fantastic. Amazing. Everybody has their own pet project, their own personal project for like undermining and further shitting on Muslims. Ryan Grimm post, by the way, this is from the Guardian. 4 further school buildings have been marked as potential targets to be bombed by the IDF, according to the sources. The locations identified as potential targets include 4 schools: Halawa, Al-Rafai, Nusiba, and Halima Saadia. All 4 are in or near Jabalia in the north of Gaza. Insane. Insane. Speaking of insanity and people that are trying to fucking distance themselves now that they are no longer in power from all of the violence that unfolded, all of the violence that they defended, by the way, who should be charged as war criminals, Matt Miller. Matt Miller had the audacity to say, without a doubt, former Biden official says he believes Israel has committed war crimes in Gaza. I said, you directly helped cover for those war crimes so we could keep sending more munitions to do new crimes with. Here it is. Nearly 5 months after leaving office, former State Department spokesman Matt Miller told Sky's Mark Stone on the Trump 100 podcast that it is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes in Gaza, but added that in almost every major conflict, you see individual members of the military committing war crimes. Miller stressed this was his personal view, not the U.S. government's, and noted Washington has not formally found Israel responsible. He also dismissed accusations of genocide, but admitted he wished more had been done to pressure the ceasefire between May and mid-January in 2025, when thousands of Palestinian civilians were killed.
Do you think what's going on in Gaza now is a genocide?
I don't think it's a genocide, but I think I think it is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes.
You wouldn't have said that at the podium.
Yeah, look, because when you're at the podium, you're not expressing your personal opinion. You're expressing the conclusions of the United States government. The United States government had not concluded that they've committed war crimes.
This is literally, I was just following orders happening in real time. What an incredible admission. What an incredible fucking admission. He's just saying like, nope, I was just following orders. Sorry.
Crimes still have not concluded that.
But your personal view is they have. And they were while you were there.
But let me qualify that. There are 2 ways to think about the commission of war crimes. One is if the state has pursued a policy to deliberately committing war crimes or is acting reckless in a way that aids and abets war crimes. And that, I think, is an open question. I think what is almost certainly not an open question is that there have been individual incidents that have been war.
Yeah, he's trying to individualize the violence, by the way. Here, Matt Miller today saying Israel has without a doubt committed war crimes versus Matt Miller covering them up when he was in power.
Bureaus that look at facts, apply them to international law, and make assessments. Those assessments are ongoing, and we have not yet at this time concluded that Israel has violated international humanitarian law, but we have ongoing assessments across a number of different fronts.
So all these organizations are just...
At the start of October 7th, the head war weapons guy quit. Yeah, there were members in the State Department that knew exactly what Israel was planning. And a month in, basically, we're like, this is unconscionable. They are not listening to what we have to say. You have to put an end to this immediately and quit. People who had signed off on weapons transfers to Israel in the past from the State Department that quit because they were like, I don't want to be associated with this. They're not listening to my warnings. It is going to be an absolute fucking bloodbath. It has already started as a bloodbath. Matt Miller is not one of those people. He is a careerist and a liar, and he saw the opportunity, and he was a willing servant of genocide.
Wrong? They just see the law differently.
I'm telling you that we have ongoing assessments, and we have not yet reached that conclusion. Failed to implement all of the things that we recommend in that letter. Now, that said, we are not at the end of the 30-day period, and we are in.
Here's Washington Post journalist Jeff Stein. In all sincerity, is the argument here that saying things you don't think is true is okay as long as you're a government spokesman? How incredible of an admission is that? This is literally the just following orders statement from Nuremberg that everybody remembers. That's him. He's saying it.
It's not the end. It's not the end of the semester.
No, Jeff is stupid. That's not the point. No, Jeff is not fucking stupid. He is being incredulous on purpose in order to drive home the fucking point. What are you talking about?
We don't hand out grades in the middle.
Gives you the right to lecture.
Jeff Stein is not stupid. What the fuck are you talking about, Chatter? Jeff Stein is actually a brilliant journalist for Washington Post. What are you talking about? He's done endless coverage on like the violence that American sanctions have borne about in the global South. He's a great journalist.
Other countries on their moral.
So if you have a policy question for me, I'm happy to take it. If you want to give a speech,
No, but
there are plenty of places in Washington where you can give a speech.
Yeah, but people are sick of the bullshit in here. I mean, like, it is a genocide. You are abetting it, and you are
Israel blowing up an entire village in southern Lebanon. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, yes, he is aiding and abetting it, and then all of a sudden he turns around and is now saying like, "Oh, I don't know if this is a genocide," but also, yeah, Israel definitely did war crimes, and I covered it up because that's my job. My job is to cover up those war crimes as a member of the American State Department. Like, this is my job. Ridiculous.
War crimes where members of the Israeli military have committed war crimes. So ultimately, in almost every major conflict, including conflicts prosecuted by democracies, you will see individual members of the militaries commit war crimes. And the way you judge a democracy is whether they hold those people accountable.
But Israel hasn't. I mean, that's been one of the...
No, that's my point,
Right.
is we have not yet seen them hold sufficient numbers of the military accountable.
Sufficient numbers, any numbers. They haven't done it at all. This is also, once again, insane to admit as a spokesperson for the American State Department. Why is this an insane thing to admit? Because this is a direct violation of pre-existing American laws, okay? There are laws in the books in the United States of America that dictate that you are not allowed to give any aid or any weapons to a country that is committing war crimes, okay? The Leahy Law is what I'm talking about, yes. And that is a question that was directed to Matt Miller on numerous occasions. And he knowingly lied. He is admitting that he knowingly fucking lied, knowing full well that the aid must continue. That is the reason why him lying like this is extra fucked up. Do you understand? His purpose to lie at the behest of the American state was deliberate, was by design done in this way so they can continue fucking sending weapons. The reason, like him trying to distance himself from both the current American administration and both the Israeli government right now is still in service of a lie as well. Now he's saying, oh, well, Israel didn't actually fucking do sufficient investigations. Israel didn't conduct sufficient investigations into war criminals amongst their ranks. Okay? While that statement is true, this notion that it's actually in the hands of Israel and not in the hands of America to put an end to this is also a lie, because we have all the power. The American government has all the power. Do you think Matt Miller doesn't know that the American government has all the fucking power here? If Matt Miller knew that we were powerless in this process, then they would be more honest about all the war crimes that Israel is contributing to, because we're powerless at the end of the day. What can we do? We can just stop weapons transfers to Israel. They'll still continue. Except that's not the case. Do you understand? If America was actually powerless in this process, we would have cut ties with Israel a long fucking time ago. Okay? We wouldn't have to lie at the behest of Israel. A long time ago, this would have stopped. And Israel probably would have still continued doing what it's doing without America's help, right? But that's not the case. Israel cannot continue doing its genocidal campaign on the Palestinians without America's go-ahead and without America's munitions. This is our genocide as much as it is Israel's genocide. So when guys like this try to distance themselves and the American government, or at least their administration, from the actions of Israel, They're lying again.
And whether they're going to.
I'm really struck that you think now that Israel did commit war crimes, and yet at the time, and I get why, but at the time you were at the podium and you couldn't say that. I mean, personally, that must be very difficult for you.
So the State Department itself had concluded, not in these, they didn't phrase it in these terms, but I think I did at the podium a few times, had concluded that it was likely that Israel had committed war crimes. But I do think it's almost certain that they have.
Do you think what's going
See also Miller's Exchange journalist Niall Stanage about a year ago when Israel was already deep into his genocide and hundreds of apparent war crimes had already been committed. Yeah.
In this case, like I can't go through all 6 of them, take too long, but one instance, a strike on the Taj 3 tower in Gaza City, the UN says was caused by several 1,000-pound bombs, killing 105 people, including 32 women and 47 children. I mean, should it take 8 months to make a final determination as to whether that was within
as we have said before,
law?
it is very difficult to draw fact-specific conclusions when we don't have someone on the ground and we're in the middle of an active conflict. So what we do is we gather information, we talk to independent organizations to try to gather information, and then we make our assessments. Those assessments are compounded by the sheer scale of this conflict and the number of incidents that we have to review and the limited resources that we have to make those assessments. But I can tell you there are people working hard on it day and night.
But how does it come?
Like, he knew that there weren't people working hard on it day and night. You understand that, right? Like, he has now admitted. I mean, we knew this already. I said it over and over again. Yeah, here. Matt Miller now admits Israel committed war crimes, yet as the State Department spokesperson, he watched Stacey Gilbert quit her 20-year Department of State career over a report she said was falsified to absolve Israel of war crimes and justify continued U.S. weapons sales to Israel. Remember, this was a major fucking point of contention. And remember when 60 Minutes actually held the coverage of this, when there was a point where U.S. aid actually created a report. Okay, U.S. aid created a report that showed that Israel was actually doing war crimes. Okay, that report went all the way up the ranks to Blinken's office. And Blinken read that report, saw that report, and said, give me another report that says the opposite. Okay, doors open. Chris Hedges is here. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to bring him in here real quick. Hiya. Place. Yeah, you go. You can go. The bathroom is the first left. Yeah.
Yeah, you can interview however you want to do it, but just so you know, he has a book that just came out, Genocide Foretold. So.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah. All right. Perfect.
Okay, cool. Do you want us to sit anywhere?
You guys can just sit over there. And listen in from over there. Yeah, I mean, there's a noise gate, but yeah. Chris Hedges is a wild pull. Mic test. Okay, calm down, everybody. Yeah, it's in person. All I meant to say was the government doesn't care if it's right or wrong. All right, let's continue with this.
War crimes in Gaza. I was shocked to see that it said in very clear terms, it is our determination that Israel is not blocking humanitarian assistance.
You had advised that that wasn't the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. She's sitting over there. It's fine. All right. Chris Hedges in the building, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Hassan. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Just all you got to do is speak close into the microphone. This is probably nothing you've ever done before. This is unlike any other media hit you've ever done before, right?
It's a completely new experience.
Yeah. All right. Well, perfect. So Christopher Lynn Hedges in the building. How would you describe yourself to this audience of primarily younger people that might not know what you do?
I mean, I was formed as a newspaper reporter, and I guess at my core, I remain one. I was overseas for 20 years, covered mostly war, started in El Salvador, 83 to 88. Then I was in the Middle East for 7 years, I was the Middle East bureau chief for the New York Times. Then I covered the war in the former Yugoslavia. And in between, I covered a lot of other conflicts. I get seconded to places like the Congo. I covered civil war in the Sudan, Algeria. I covered the civil war in Yemen, even though I made the mistake of being on the losing side. But mostly war. I was either in conflicts or got airdropped into conflicts.
Yeah, I've tremendous experience in this field. You were also writing for Christian Science Monitor, right?
When I started, I was freelancing for Christian Science Monitor and NPR out of Salvador. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have a new book coming out, A Genocide Foretold, right?
Yeah. So
what's the book about?
I spent a lot of time in Gaza because I'm an Arabic speaker, and have pretty much focused, and you've done good stuff on this, on the genocide since it started. It's personal. I've lost a lot of friends. I mean, actually, most of them, we don't know what's happened to them. So you hear from them periodically, sporadically, and then you just stop hearing from them completely. And so it's a collection of, it's not, they're not essays. We just took I've written so much since October 7th on it, that we just formed it into a book to give the genocide some kind of context. That said, I just came back from Egypt a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with the cartoonist Joe Sacco, and we were interviewing Palestinians from Gaza because the foreign press can't get into Gaza.
Yeah.
And so we're just determined to counter this erasure, not just the physical erasure, but the erasure, of course, of people, but also the erasure of their culture, their history, their stories, and it's kind of our contribution. Sacco, he did these two great works, Palestine and then Footnotes in Gaza.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all of your contributions, and we're very honored to have you here on the broadcast. We were supposed to do this over the internet, but I think this is
it's always
much
better in person.
Yeah, it's much
especially
better
when it's longer.
Yeah.
I just watched your 2+ hour interview with Giannis.
Oh,
which
yeah.
if I was going to give a Golden Globe for podcasts, I was really good.
Oh, thank you.
But you know, as you know, I'm a journalist. I mean, the quality of an interview is determined by the interviewer.
I'm really bad at interviewing.
No, you weren't. You were.
That's
really
what
good.
what my audience says all the time. I'm really bad at interviewing because like there's an entire arena, a stadium full of people that are constantly talking. You probably see them in the chat right now, like all those words that are flying. So I'm doing live production at the same time, making sure that the cameras are working, and also simultaneously keeping track of what's going on with the chat. So I'm a little bit all over the place. So I apologize. And if I don't make direct eye contact as I normally would in person-to-person conversations, that is because I'm actively monitoring all this other stuff that's happening. But enough about me. So we are you came in at the right time. We were just talking about Matt Miller, former spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, now coming out and distancing himself and distancing the previous administration in a way from the actions of Israel, and openly admitting that maybe undeniably Israel had done war crimes, and that openly admitting that, see, this is the type of stuff that happens, openly admitting that the war crimes were not properly investigated by the Israeli authorities. Have you seen this at all?
No, I didn't.
All right, well, let's watch it once again, I think, then, from the start. And because I want to hear your perspective on this, as well as someone who obviously has been closely covering everything that has been going on since October 7th.
In this case, I can't go through all.
Wait, no, this is not what I was looking for. Hold on. Here is the 2-minute video. This is on Sky News, as a matter of fact.
Going on in Gaza now is a genocide?
I don't think it's a genocide, but I think I think
ridiculous.
It is without a doubt true that Israel has committed war crimes.
You wouldn't have said that at the podium.
Yeah, look, because when you're at the podium, you're not expressing your personal opinion. You're expressing the conclusions of the United States government. The United States government had not concluded that they've committed war crimes, still have not.
That's, first and foremost, that's just following orders, like the Nuremberg defense that failed.
Yeah.
They're saying that, well, that's the American government's official position, so what can I do? Which is insane. I feel like that's like people have gotten far too confident and in the international organs of justice not doing the correct thing, especially when the American government is like actively defending Israel. And there's some truth to why they feel this way. There's understandable reasons for why they feel this way, but it's crazy to me that he's just like openly admitting that.
It's also crazy that he won't admit it's a genocide.
Yeah.
I don't, I had to deal with these people as a reporter. I have zero respect for them. We have enough problem in the press and at places like the New York Times where people think journalism is about being a stenographer to people in power, and you can make a very good career of it at places like the New York Times, where I spent 15 years and win lots of prizes. I don't think that's journalism. These people are absolutely amoral. They will get up and cynical because they will get up and lie, and they'll know they're lying. And the reporters in the room know they're lying. And it's a dirty little game. But I never did that kind of reporting. I was always in the field. I never reported on Washington. I never followed around the Secretary of State or something. I was always in places like Sarajevo or Gaza. Which is real reporting. I mean, the essence of reporting for me is holding power accountable. And, these are the classic kind of mandarins of power. It's all about careerism, but they have no moral core, and that he pretty much just exhibited that.
Yeah. He, of course, also denies that it's a genocide. Do you feel like admissions like this, and you've probably also noticed that there is this market shift, this attitude change, maybe a new permission structure that has now taken hold over legacy publishers that have either never really covered what Israel was doing, or when they covered what Israel was doing, they oftentimes contextualized that violence by sometimes directly talking to Israeli envoys in their coverage. Do you feel like there is an attitude shift that you notice as well in Western press? Maybe I think in the aftermath of this last round of starvation policies that Israel implemented, and all of a sudden you had Western politicians coming out and also starting to criticize Israel for the first time.
Well, it's because of the starvation. I mean, you can attempt to justify attacks on hospitals and schools by saying they're Hamas command and control centers, or Hamas uses Palestinians as human shields. It's pretty hard to justify starvation. So that's when the shift began, but they're just trying to cover their ass. They're not going to do anything. I think they're just, they recognize now that there's just no way out in terms of defending what Israel is doing. There's no way that they can at this point argue that it isn't genocide. And so they're rhetorically distancing themselves, but still sending the weapons. Yeah. And I think it's just an act of very cynical self-preservation.
I agree 100%. Do you feel like that, however, creates a permission structure in Western publishers and Western legacy publishers specifically that then informs people on who the actual victims and who the actual perpetrators are, ultimately creating additional pressure because now more people are informed about the violence beyond social media? Because there has been a generational divide in the way that people have looked at Israel. If you're over the age of 40, you have primarily gotten your news and information from mainstream media for your whole life. You have a lot more trust in mainstream outlets in general than the younger generations do. You don't really rely on TikTok or social media of that sort to get your information about what's going on in Gaza. And that is still heavily, or was heavily slanted, and still is heavily slanted in favor of Israel. Do you feel as though that could lead to even more pressure, more public pressure, more protests in the streets, and maybe even a recognition from the public that the liberal democracy is a lie, that this project is over, it's done, it's in its final stage?
Well, the legacy media, which I come out of, has once again failed to do even basic journalism. I spent time in the encampments at Columbia, Princeton. I have tremendous admiration for these students who, at the risk of their degrees and their status and everything else, stood up to do the right thing, were slammed by the country, by the media, and by their own universities. And what was the narrative that was peddled about these encampments? It was that they were filled with Hamas supporters and anti-Semites. Well, it's just patently untrue.
Yeah.
And it's just, what angered me is that they didn't even bother to go report. I mean, if you watched closely with the New York Times, they'd race up to Columbia and go to the Hillel house and find some Jewish student who felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, what was it, 108 Columbia students were thrown in jail by the cops. So they fed the narrative, and this was from the beginning. So after October 7th, Columbia banned the student chapters of Jewish Voice for Peace and Students for Justice in Palestine. They hadn't even done anything yet.
Yeah.
There were no protests yet.
Yeah.
And so they fed a false narrative. And this is now being used by the Trump administration. They gave credibility to this lie.
Yeah.
And now this lie, which they created, is now including the Democratic Party. Let's not be Schumer was one of the worst. So
3,500 student protesters were jailed under the Biden administration.
Yeah, exactly. So that now they and they were self-flagellating themselves too. You know, you saw it with Claudia Gay and all these going before the Congress. And I watched it and I thought, you know, they're going to lynch you anyway. It was a complete misreading of power and a complete misreading of motive. Like Trump cares about anti-Semitism. I mean, he's got neo-Nazis, you know, in his cabinet. And so they misread power. They gave credibility to a false narrative. And essentially what they did is hand the bullets to their own executioners. And that's what's happening. So look at Harvard. I mean, Harvard was one of the worst in terms of crushing any kind of dissent on its campus, giving credibility to this idea that, I mean, look, I've taught at Princeton, I taught at Columbia, I taught at NYU, I did my graduate work at Harvard. The idea that these places are bastions of anti-Semitism is just absurd.
It's so absurd. Even Steven Pinker, who I don't think
awful.
I agree with any point on, literally came out in this last round of attacks against Harvard and was like, you guys are being ridiculous.
Yeah, they are.
Like, and it's interesting because like so many of the Harvard graduates then ultimately go and work in Republican administrations.
Yeah,
it's
of course.
It's a war criminal factory for the
course.
most part.
And, you know, having spent 4 years there, the left is about as welcome at Harvard as Trump. The idea that these are leftist, bastions of, exactly. But, so I fault the media, I fault the Democratic Party. And you're right that the only people with a conscience came from that kind of generation which has separated itself from the legacy media. Yeah, completely. But the legacy media has just failed us over and over. We go all the way back to the Iraq War, weapons of mass destruction, the fantasy of Russiagate was, for which the Post and the Times won Pulitzer Prizes, even though the Mueller report exposed that all of it was garbage. It's just a complete and utter collapse of any, real pretense of journalism at all. And this is just the latest chapter of that.
Yeah, I think like some of the more recent examples I would say that happened almost in real time that because I remember like covering it was when Cy Hirsch came out with his reporting initially on the Nord Stream pipeline explosion, and I could not believe that the immediate notes from mainstream publishers was, oh, maybe Russia did this to itself.
Yeah, right. Which doesn't make any sense.
Which was such an insane thing to say. It defied all reason. It defied all logic. And yet they still attempted to do so. Like they still attempted this narrative. And I could not believe it. It was such an unbelievable narrative.
Let's just on a minute with Cy, because he's a friend of mine. He's our greatest investigative journalist, hands down, Me Lie. He's the one who exposed the images from Abu Ghraib. He's the one who imploded the false narrative about how Osama bin Laden was killed and assassinated. Well, he couldn't publish that in the United States. It got to that point where he had to publish that. I think it was in the London Review of Books. Yeah. He's been completely blocked out. And the Nord Stream pipeline is he now just runs a Substack like I do because he can't. And this is, he's the dean of investigative journalism. He's what we all aspire to be.
Yeah. So speaking of like active suppression, I feel like everything that's unfolding right now was decades in the making. And it's not like those who are in these right-wing think tanks or just any think tank that is adjacent to the State Department was sheltering the public from their opinion on what must be done. You had Project 2025 and even Project Esther coming out of the Heritage Foundation. These are all detailed reports on how to undermine or how to manipulate public consciousness and utilize the Trump administration to basically finalize the unitary executive theory, but also simultaneously make America into a full-blown tyrannical dictatorship. And the reason why I'm talking about this specifically is because I think, just like you pointed out, Trump is not a defender of Jewish people. Like, I don't think he gives a shit about Jewish people. He cares about money. He cares about the Adelson family when Sheldon gave him, $100 million. And then this time around, Miriam, once Sheldon died, Miriam gave another $100 million. All of a sudden, he's offering endless amounts of leeway to Israel in the identical ways in which the Biden administration did. But all of this suppression, all of this like combating anti-Semitism narratives, I think, are a way to open up the floodgates of complete control and complete dominance over Americans, the way they think and the way they speak, in an effort to erode the First Amendment.
Yeah, it's a total subterfuge to destroy the left and the liberal class. I don't really like liberals, and I've written a lot against them. But at least liberalism pays lip service to pluralism and inclusiveness. And so there's two things. One, any authoritarian state is about destroying any pluralistic narrative. There's only one narrative, which is the deification of the old white slaveholders who created America. And just as we deify them, we have to deify, the old white people who are in control. So there's that, the destruction of pluralism. But it really, what it is a way to eviscerate the left. And there I'm thinking of the students, not so much the faculty. Very few faculty have stood up with these students. And that's what's happening. So in the name of anti-Semitism, and then you have this weird tautology where Jewish students are being persecuted by non-Jewish figures for being anti-Semitic.
Yeah. There is nothing more interesting than watching someone who is not Jewish, like Hawley, berate even Zionist Jews who are sitting in front of him in a congressional hearing, and these guys are from institutions that actively do work to suppress pro-Palestinian speech, and even they're like, well, this is a bridge too far in terms of deportations, and Josh Hawley is like yelling at them, being like, no, I know better than you on how to deal with anti-Semitism.
Well, the other thing is that all the right-wing anti-Semites who are real, including in the Christian right, are given a pass because they look at that ethno-nationalist state that Israel has set up, that settler colonial project where they're eviscerating and killing people of color as a model and ignoring humanitarian law, any law, the Genocide Convention, the Geneva Convention, whatever it is. And that is, they love it. So I think the connection between the far right, who are anti-Semites, and Israel is that they are carrying out a kind of settler colonial project and white supremacy. Remember the deep divide in Israel, and I lived in Israel, between the Ashkenazi, who are of European descent, like Netanyahu, and those Jews who come from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq. There's a huge social, cultural divide. Avi Shlaim wrote a very good book about it called Three Worlds, I think it's called. Anyway, it's very good. So that's the attraction of the far right to Israel. Yet at the same time, and I wrote a book on the Christian right about a decade ago called American Fascists, the Christian right and the War in America. They, unequivocally blame Jews for killing Christ.
Yeah. I mean,
which isn't even true.
That was really interesting, actually, that you just brought that up, because there was an IHRA definition bill that wanted to that wanted to basically make it so that any sort of criticism of Israel was declared anti-Semitic and potentially punishable by law, which again is a direct violation of the First Amendment. And Marjorie Taylor Greene yelled about getting a specific carve out where you could say that Jews killed Christ. Right. And that anti-Semitism combating bill inevitably ended up featuring this hilariously anti-Semitic canard in it. This anti-Semitic trope in the bill itself, tasked with combating anti-Semitism, on paper, and yet it gave an out to Christian fascists who wanted to say, like, Jews are still ultimately the enemy and they killed Christ.
Well,
the
you
original
see
sin.
Netanyahu making these alliances with Hagee,
yeah,
or Orban. I mean, these guys are openly have made, just spewed one anti-Semitic trope after another. But this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It has to do with the rise of fascism. And you have in Israel, within the Zionist project, there has always been a strain of fascism, just as there has been a strain of fascism in the American project. Go back to the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s, which mirrored the fascist movements in Europe. And the fascist movement in Israel comes out of Vladimir Jabotinsky, who Mussolini called, I'm quoting, a good fascist, who created his own kind of Jewish version of the brown shirts. This was picked up by the radical right-wing Rabbi Meir Kahane, who I covered and knew. Same thing with the JDL. So there's always been this strain, just as there has in American society. And unfortunately for us, for the Palestinians, and for the Israelis, these strains are ascendant. They've taken power.
The way I see it is, one, I see Israel as simply an extension of America. By design, it's an extension as a settler colonial state for Western powers, all the way from its inception, all the way since the Balfour Declaration. But in its current formation, it's still used as a agent of espionage and of resource-rich region and unsinkable aircraft carrier, which is why there's been so many allowances for the Israeli state to even at times directly counter the CIA, which is why, there are people within the CIA that don't like Israel for good reasons. And then there are obviously people who overpower the skeptical individuals within the CIA. But the reason why I'm mentioning this also is because I feel like people refuse to contend with that. And while Israel is an extension of America, Israel also is America's future. I feel as though a lot of our politicians are openly admiring the policies of censorship and the complete domination of an underclass, a permanent underclass that is the indigenous population. And they want to take some of those policies and bring it here, or policies that we already have in the books, they want to have closely resemble the Israeli fascist policies.
Yeah, and Netanyahu, who's not stupid, says that. He says everybody thinks the future is liberal Western. That's not the future. Yeah. The future is this kind of authoritarian, neo-fascist, whatever term you want to use. And unfortunately, I think he's probably right.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right that the admiration, because Israel just acts without restraint. I mean, I think it's Ronan Rise and Kill, that book by Ronan Bergman, where he's about Israel's assassination program. He says Israel has assassinated more people than any other Western country.
Yeah.
And of course, in Gaza, targeted assassination occurs, and it's not
daily.
It's not just Hamas. I knew many of the Hamas leaders, but it's like they're poets, they're writers, they're doctors.
Yeah.
Right? When I just came from Egypt interviewing Palestinians for this book I'm doing, and what was so chilling was, and I was interviewing doctors and journalists and others, was that the moment the journalist would go off the air and go to his house, a drone would appear and kill him. Yeah. Or the moment the doctor finished his shift or was on his way to Shifa, the drone would come and kill them. And when the drones would come, they would often take out just the apartment. So you have a 4 or 5 story building.
Yeah.
They would take out just the apartment where that doctor or that journalist lives. So there's no question. I mean, they've killed over 200 journalists. I don't know how many doctors. Of course, what they're doing, now we see it with the starvation, is they're decapitating civil society to create just chaos. I mean, chaos, anarchy. They love it, the fact that, and I mean, this very cynical food stations they've set up in the South.
Yeah, the Gaza Humanitarian
Exactly.
Foundation.
The whole idea, look, I covered the war in El Salvador, or go back to Vietnam. That's classic counterinsurgency technique. You starve a population, you set up food stands. Remember, to get to these areas where they get food, they have to go through an armed corridor of U.S. contractors and Israeli soldiers. And it becomes a way to kind of bait, it's like baiting mice into a trap.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And what they're doing, there's a 9-mile border between Gaza and Egypt, and they're going to push all the Palestinians into these densely packed concentration camps. And they're not, by the way, they're not getting anywhere near enough food. It's just a lure. It's not like they're actually feeding anybody. Plus, all the food's dry, and nobody has any cooking oil. Nobody has any water. Nobody has any. And I think this is speculation, but you reach a point where that cauldron of misery just is. I mean, it's already horrible. But then there are parts of that border that's just a fence. You just breach it, and. But it's clear that the intent is to depopulate all of Gaza. They've already, have achieved much of that in the north.
Yeah.
But they want all of it to be gone, and then they're going to turn on the West Bank, and they'll get away with it. I mean, the fact is, the only impediment to stop them is the United States, because they've depleted long ago their weapons stocks. And I don't see it. I mean, those of us who cover it are, we're really black. We're really pessimistic, and the rest of the world just watches it.
Do you feel as though this market notable shift in attitude, turning Israel into a pariah state, at least in the eyes of the Western world, which is basically the last bastion of defense of Israel? Because popular consciousness in the global South has always seen the truth about Israel being a settler colonial apparatus for Western superpowers. But now you have, at least in my experience, I've been an advocate for Palestinian emancipation for a decade plus in my professional media career, and I've never seen this level of animosity, anger, and resentment correctly applied to Israel from regular people. Right, from everyday average people that don't pay too close attention to what's going on in the news at all. Do you feel like that creates a pressure valve, as it did in Europe, for European leaders to try and at least aesthetically try to sever their ties from Israel, while they're still simultaneously, of course, sending weapons to Israel? But do you feel like there is a point where the dam might break? Or do you think that this level of suppression will ultimately be successful? Because it seems to me like they're right now recognizing that there's no way to reverse the way that people feel about Israel as it's continued out.
They don't give a rat's ass how we feel. I mean, Democratic Party doesn't function as a political party. The base doesn't count. What was it? 77% of registered Democrats wanted a ceasefire or arms embargo on Israel. They don't care what we want. I mean we've undergone a corporate coup d'etat, and it's over. And on what was that poll a few years ago on just basic issue, holding big banks accountable, Medicare for all. I mean, these all have majoritarian support. It doesn't matter. I mean,
something as basic as Joe Biden being senile was seen by Americans who don't pay close attention to the news. Many people, 75% of all Americans, wanted Joe Biden not to run in 2022. And now you have the likes of Jake Tapper running selling his book, running this propaganda tour, saying I was one of the brave ones to actually call this out. How could we have been duped? It's no one was duped.
No one was duped. And
everyone saw it.
And all of these people like Jake Tapper, I saw the segment you did on Tapper, which I loved almost as much as your takedown of the odious Jordan Peterson. No one was duped, and the press and the Democratic Party would come out and lie. Oh, I just had a meeting with him. He's really sharp. So the press was completely colluded in this lie, this cover up of his senility. But again, there's a great book by the Egyptian American author Omar Hadid. It's called One Day Everyone Will Have Been Against This. He's really good. He's a good writer too. And that's it. So, that's what, as soon as this is over, everybody will furiously rewrite their own history to hide their own, moral bank. This is, of course, classic liberal action. It's like the civil rights movement. You know, everybody stood up for, the equal rights for blacks. And, Biden was awful. Biden. Biden was Strom Thurmond's puppet. He opposed busing. They whitewash their own past. And that's what'll happen again. And the media is, it's really awful. The media is just imploded. I'm old enough that I remember, look, the New York Times is an elitist publication. I know they've never been good on Israel, but there used to be at least a certain fealty to verifiable fact. I always say as a newspaper reporter, we manipulate facts. And I've written hundreds and hundreds of news stories. I can take the same facts and spin it any way you want. Yeah. And if I care about my career, I can spin it in such a way that it gives you a false impression. It's factually correct. But the good reporters, they care about the truth, and they will use those facts to communicate the truth. Look, there used to be a place for people like me at the Times. There is no place anymore.
I think the way I describe it to people, because I'm friends with a lot of fantastic journalists that still work at these publications, and the way I've seen it from my conversations with them is that, like, they see what's going on, they want to cover it to the best of their ability, but the editorial control is severe in this process, especially nowadays. I feel like, whereas in the past, like even Seymour Hersh, like he was...
Seymour worked at the New York Times.
Yeah, exactly.
He left because they wouldn't publish his expose on Gulf and Western.
Yeah,
but even he was at the Times.
But exactly, and I think that also allowed these institutions to have a tremendous credibility, because they were like, well, we're doing the propaganda on the one side, but we're also uncovering some heinous truths.
So I'll tell you how it works. So I was overseas, so I was on the ground. So let's say I'm in Gaza. I spent a lot of time in Gaza. I would write a story, and then there were two ways the New York Times neutered it. One, which never happened to me in any other conflict, is that I would be interviewing eyewitnesses. So I was there when Israel F-16s would bomb what they called a surgical strike on a bomb-making factory. Well, then I'd go there and count the dead children and put it in the story. And what they do is every other paragraph to neuter the story is they quote an IDF spokesperson in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or somewhere to neuter the story. So by the end of it, you could believe whatever you want. That didn't happen to me in Bosnia, although I still had problems. So you reported something in Bosnia, and then you have this powerful Washington bureau, and all these reporters, they make their living by kind of doing lunch, it's all about access. And unfortunately, these big media empires, they prize access above truth. That's how we got the whole, weapons of mass destruction lie that they perpetrated. And so you're not only fighting, in my case, Bosnia over the Clinton administration, which did not like my reporting, but you're also fighting your own Washington bureau. And the way they would neuter it there is they'd run my story, sometimes on the front page, but then they'd run the official version. My favorite story of that is, just to show you how absurd it is, I covered when the plane crash for Ron Brown crashed. I was in Croatia. Unfortunately, we had a reporter on the plane. And so these pilots, Dubrovnik is a really difficult airport to come in because there's actually this big mountain you have to come around.
Yeah.
So these hotshot U.S. Air Force pilots just plowed right into them. It was very rainy and foggy. They couldn't see. They went straight into the mountain. Well, I went up to the crash site and then called into the Times that there were no survivors. And R.W. Apple, who was in the Washington bureau writing the official version, said, no, the Pentagon says that there's wreckage in the sea. I said, no, I was there. I saw. No, the first edition of the paper went with that, even though I was there. It was a classic example of the power of the established institutions to whatever the narrative is, which is almost always false. I mean, I.F. Stone said these establishment reporters know more than me. Unfortunately, most of it's wrong. So, but there were people like myself, Sidney Schanberg. I don't know if you remember who he was. That's the Killing Fields.
Yeah.
Cover Camp. Sidney was a great journalist. He got pushed out too. But there was a place for us. We were management headaches. We weren't careerists. We were never going to be made editors. And now that's been erased. And, watching the time just breaks my heart, frankly. I mean, I know the encampments sound like a small thing, but for me, it's not, because you've got, 750 reporters. Just send one up for a day.
Yeah.
I mean, on those encampments on Friday nights, this was true at Columbia, was true at Princeton, they would lay down a tarp. The Muslim students would say their prayers, and the Jewish students would have Shabbat on the same tarp.
Yeah.
That's the kind of world we want to create.
Yeah. I actually did go to the encampments at UCLA and covered them extensively and we had a couple other people in my community that are also, that were also routinely at the encampments. And it was actually shocking because I've covered protests and I've been a participant in protests. I've spoken at rallies, and I had actually never seen such tremendous messaging discipline from these students that were so incredibly organized against all odds, and they were fantastic. So I could not believe what my direct reporting was, as opposed to how the LA Times would cover it. And they were met with so much resistance from both the administration and so much resistance from the police force and of course counter protesters that were not from the school that were there and caused physical harm.
Well, attack them while the cops stood by and watched.
Exactly. And it was shocking to recognize that. But I guess being 33, my assessment, I didn't grow up in an environment. I lived in the weapons of mass destruction environment. So my assessment always is that, yeah, of course they're going to lie about certain things. And that's a part of what I try to do is explain to my audience, hold their hand through the process of looking at media coverage, always explaining to them that there is going to be instances of omission, and try to bake in media literacy, force feed media literacy in that coverage, even though I still, of course, rely on mainstream reporting for that, because no one else has access.
So the lie of, let's be clear, the lie of omission is still a lie.
Yeah.
And that's very effectively used.
Yeah.
It's just another abject failure. And, in a way, these legacy media outlets are just committing suicide, I think, by doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, who watches MSNBC or CNN or, and also, let's be clear, these people aren't journalists. I mean, people like Jake Tapper, they're what's her name? Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
I mean, what does she make? $10 million a year? I can assure you no real reporter makes $10 million a year.
Yeah.
They're, celebrities. But it's collapsing. Yet at the same time, those who are struggling to hold on to any kind of honesty or moral probity or truth are being marginalized. I mean, you've been attacked. I've been attacked.
Yeah.
And then we get into all the algorithms. Because the legacy media, it's like Israel, because the legacy media really doesn't have an argument to cover their own complicity in their own lies. They're trying to shut down those people. There's always been that battle in American journalism. I mean, I think that the alternative media was a force. I'm thinking of Ramparts and Village Voice and Mother Jones before it became a piece of shit. And all of these publications, The Nation before it decided to sign on for the Democratic Party project. But all of these publications, they forced the legacy media to do their job because like COINTELPRO, I mean, that was broken, I think, by Ramparts, but it comes out of the alternative media, like Julian Assange. Let's take Julian, who's a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, and who for 14 years, I mean, I went to London, covered all his court cases, who I think is the greatest journalist of our generation, hands down. But when Julian, when the WikiLeaks, the Iraqi war logs, and everything came out, you had the legacy publications, El País, The Guardian, Der Spiegel, I think, or I don't remember, the New York Times. They all published it. Why? Because if they didn't, they would have been exposed for who they
Yeah.
were. But what you saw is as soon as they were published, they set out to destroy Julian because they never, I know, I come out of these, or they hated Julian for what he had done.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, the media, including The Guardian or Bill Keller, who was my executive editor at the New York Times. He was actually my foreign editor. I mean, it was vicious. And it was vicious because Julian he ripped back the veil on the inner workings of empire and showed it. And these people are tools of empire, propagandists for empire.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what you're saying is something that I'm like, obviously nothing I do is even remotely comparable to the sacrifice of the likes of Julian Assange, of course. But I see this in a smaller, like in a microcosm, in a much smaller capacity with my coverage as well, where you have someone who works for the Israeli state, the ADL, I call them the Apartheid Defense League.
Oh, I saw this.
Jonathan Greenblatt, after any kind of like violence occurs, he will rush to CNN, and today he did it with Fox News to immediately say it's Hassan Piker.
I saw it.
We have to deplatform him.
But he's blaming you for the assassination of the two.
Yeah, and he's also blaming me now for the Aurora, Colorado thing, where this guy tried to throw Molotov cocktails at like people that were doing a pro-Israel march for releasing the hostages, and it's crazy because on the one hand, they're giving a lot of allowance to Jonathan Greenblatt to say certain things, but on the other hand, they also not Aurora, Boulder, Colorado. I apologize. But also on the other hand, there is this noted shift in tone where these headlines are no longer applying passive voice to the violence that the Israeli occupying force is subjecting Palestinians to. So there is this attitude shift, but they're still holding on to like the people that have been correctly reporting, the people that have been correctly reporting on all of the atrocities, where they're trying to single people like myself out and say, no, these guys are bad. And I don't know where this goes in terms of like the active deplatforming initiatives, because whether I'm deplatformed or not is not going to change the dynamic, because at the end of the day, people still see the dead children. Yeah. They still see Israel's unlimited violence and starvation campaign on the Palestinian population. And I feel like the toothpaste is out of the tube at this point. There's no way to put it back in.
Yeah, but they're desperate. I mean, it's their desperation. And they don't have an answer now. And so what they're doing, and it's very crude, is just trying to censor anyone with a significant media platform like yourself. So I was very outspoken against the call to invade Iraq. I came out of the Middle East. I spent a lot of time in Iraq. Yeah. I knew that Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. And there were two things that when I was eventually booed off of a commencement stage, and then I was issued a formal written reprimand by the New York Times for quote unquote impugning the impartiality of the New York Times. And then, so under guild rules, you give the employee the reprimand, and then if they violate it again, they're fired. I left the paper after that. But what was interesting was the assaults that were, and I was lynched by right-wing media, and the same as you've been here. But many of the people who lent credibility to that assault were liberals, George Packer or Michael Ignat, all these kinds of figures. And that's what the liberal class does. Chomsky writes about this really well. He said they set the limits by which you can never question the virtue of the state. You can question its excesses, but you can't question its virtue. And then what happened after the war and everything, when it all went bad, is that the people who were right were not resurrected. Yeah. It's the people who were wrong. People like Thomas Friedman and all these figures. But it wasn't a mistake, because these people, their job is to serve the centers of power.
Yes.
And now they're desperate. You're right. I mean, I think it's incontrovertible that there's genocide. I mean, you really can't make that argument anymore. Yeah. And so they're going after people like you. And I saw that. It was really sleazy and awful, and but they're sleazy and awful. I mean, I've fought the Zionist lobby for decades.
Yeah. It's I mean it's a very pervasive network of influence, and it has a lot of institutional control even to this day. I'm not specifically talking about like the Zionist lobby, but I'm talking about like advocacy groups that masquerade as Jewish advocacy groups, but then spend every waking moment of their time trying to defend Israel's war crimes and Israel's genocide. Those institutions do have a lot of, I mean, it's waning. Their control or their power to influence certain things in the media is going away as more and more people are critical of what Israel is doing. And then there comes the dual motive that mainstream press has, because like if their goal is to propagandize, they have to still have some veneer of credibility. And if they propagandize too hard, then they lose all of that credibility as the public attitude shifts, and then they can no longer propagandize, right? So that's the reason why you see this like attitude shift a little bit. That's the reason why you see like 5-6 months after Haaretz covers some horrifying atrocity, the New York Times will make a brief admission of it or a brief note of it after they bury the lead, like the Sdei Taman rape riots that took place in Israel. They will cover it so that it's in the paper of record, but they'll bury it.
That's exactly right. They bury it, or like I don't know if you know the Steve Donziger case where he
of course.
This amazing lawyer who won this, what is it, $30 billion, I can't remember how much it was, settlement for the indigenous of Ecuador whose lands have been poisoned by Chevron. Well, the New York Times technically covered it, but they were like 600-word stories, completely neutral, and buried. That's right. That's exactly how it works.
And barely a blip on his unjustifiable detention.
Oh, it was outrageous. He was under house arrest.
Or the fact that it was a civil court that was it was doing something so unceremonious.
Well, they turned it over to this crazy judge, but also they hired, I can't remember the exact details, but it was like they passed it to a judge or lawyers who worked for Chevron. I mean, it was so dirty. But yeah, they never covered that ever. They never touched it.
It's really, really frustrating to see. I ultimately don't care. The suppression and all of this. Like, I don't take the platform that I have for granted, and it is. I never thought that I would reach this level, like this many people at once, with my coverage, especially with my position. That is antagonistic towards the American state, and for very good reason, I think. But having said that, I keep stressing over and over again that, like, even if they were to deplatform me from Twitch, if they were able to, successfully pressure Amazon or, I don't know, pull me in front of Congress or something and try to, like, pin me down for anti-Semitism, despite my advocacy for years against anti-Semitism, and my consistent decoupling of Zionism and Judaism, or the crimes of Israel and Jews in the West, the truth is out there, and I feel like there's something that I worry about with respect to, like, some of the most prominent voices now that are critical of Israel. A lot of them are, especially right-wing content creators, like, a lot of them are anti-Semitic, and they do not shy away from openly stating anti-Semitic things. And it's always been interesting to me that the ADL spends more time coming after someone like myself, who is anti-Zionist and also against anti-Semitism, rather than someone with a much higher profile like Candace Owens, or even the likes of Dan Bilzerian and many of these other people who are actively marrying anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism.
Well, they love those people.
Yeah.
Because that equates, because they are anti-Semites, that allows Zionists to couple criticism of Israel or criticism of the genocide with anti-Semitism, because they are anti-Semites.
Yeah.
You don't offer them that opportunity, so therefore you must be silenced.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why I'm saying, like, they actively will go after people who aren't anti-Semitic, because they see people who aren't anti-Semitic as, like, playing a very dangerous role of de-radicalizing, like, young American Jews and moving them away from the Zionist project. And I think that's why that is a significantly more dangerous proposition for them, because you can always point to Candace Owens and be like, well, she's anti-Semitic. That's why she hates Israel.
Yeah. Well, they are.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's that. But you don't think that the attitude shift is going to create more pressure upon the American government?
Well, the attitude shift among the population, especially among the younger, that's already taken place. I wouldn't call the kind of statements by Starmer or Macron or others an attitude shift. Like, it's not, they've known what's been going on for months. I mean, they're very well aware of
Starmer flew to Cyprus to celebrate the RAF, the Royal Air Force doing missions.
Well,
I think 500, 600 missions.
Yeah, and they're flying all the military material from Cyprus by helicopter. That's where that's a staging area out of there, which declassified, exposed Matt Kennard. So no, as I said earlier, I think these people are trying to distance themselves rhetorically because it's now just impossible to deny what Israel is doing, while at the same time keeping the pipeline open.
Yeah, I think this. What I was trying to say is, I think that this is a unique opportunity, because once that permission structure is given to Western press to also try and criticize, apply more criticism, warranted criticism, far too late. I think that is when the olds also start recognizing the truth about the matter, and it becomes even an indefensible position amongst maybe not directly members of the state, but their friends, their cocktail circuit, the people in polite company will all of a sudden have a negative association with the state of Israel, becoming a pariah, which then I think causes even more pressure to be applied to Western countries who at least still try to defend liberal democracy, more so than the United States of America ever cared for. And I think that any kind of like severance of ties from Israel and America, because we are partners in this genocide, will then make it even more difficult to continue this pressure campaign. That's what I think. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if this will actually change the trajectory of American foreign policy. They seem very firmly committed, but I still hope that eventually it will make it so that this is unsustainable for even the American political class.
Yeah, the problem, Hassan, is that we're just weeks away now. If the blockage of food is not lifted, the orchestrated starvation, which already, I mean, we have 500,000 Palestinians who are now at risk of starvation. We're really so close, and Israel knows it. And I think that what you say is true, and I think Israel also understands that that's true, and therefore this is their window of opportunity, and they're going to use it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Israel and the United States are already pariah countries. I mean, completely. I mean, look at the votes in the UN. What can we get to support? I mean, can they get 10 countries to support them or something? We're already pariah countries.
Yeah.
And in the long term, as generations shift, the attitudes will shift. I think that's right. But I think for my fear is that we have such little time left to stop what's happening.
Okay. I mean, it's devastating, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, even in this last moment, they are, again, using the delivery of aid as a way to further starve the Palestinian population, trap them.
Well, it's what we did with strategic hamlets in Vietnam. It was the same. You destroy all the rice paddies, and the only way you can eat is to go to these armed, in essence, ringed, armed enclaves, which were totally controlled by the U.S. military, the South Vietnamese. That's the only way you can get food. But here, they're not even making a pretense of giving anywhere near enough food for some 2 million Palestinians who are there. It's just that when they're starving, they're desperate. And so even, that's when we've seen the rioting. What I think the numbers are 20 people have been killed now trying to get, it's really, really cynical and really dark. And the goal is to depopulate not just the north now, but let's say 75% plus of Gaza and push everybody into that border area around Rafah.
Yeah, and then ultimately push them into the Sinai.
Yeah, I mean,
think, the
I just
ultimate
came.
goal.
I was with the foreign minister, the Egyptian foreign minister, and they're adamant that it won't happen. But I, given having lived in Israel and covered, given Israeli hubris coupled with racism, I know what the Israelis think of Arabs, what they think of Egyptians.
Yeah. Or even their own, or even the Palestinian citizens of Israel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So I was just with, I don't know if you know Pankaj Mishra, do you know him? He's an amazing Indian intellectual. He wrote a very good book called The World After Gaza. He also wrote another great book called The Age of Anger. But I just had dinner with him in London on the way back. And I mean, he's in agreement that this is, we're guessing, but this is where Israel's going. And so despite Egypt's protestations that this will never happen and it's unacceptable, they just may do it anyway.
There is also a flotilla
that
is making its way right now to go through the Israeli naval blockade to directly deliver aid to the Palestinian population. And there are Irish actors like I believe his name is Liam Cunningham, if I'm not mistaken, Greta Thunberg, and numerous other people that are involved in this. And you have, well, I mean, obviously you're familiar with Mavi Marmara.
Yeah, of course.
But you have the likes of Lindsey Graham basically saying, like, I hope Israel shoots
they will. Don't worry. I mean,
this flotilla down and drown these people as they did. Well, they didn't drown them last time, but like they shot the previous aid ship miles off the coastline of Malta.
I know.
Thousands of miles away from the Israeli coastline.
I know. Well,
and it didn't even make a blip in Western
how many people
press.
died on the Mavi Marmara? It was 8?
I think it was 14.
14.
If I'm not
They
mistaken.
just killed them.
Yeah, they just they helicoptered into the ship and just like slaughtered everyone.
Yeah.
And then they did the same classic thing that they do, where they like laid down all the knives and batons that were on the ship to be like these were the dangerous weapons that they were delivering into the Gaza Strip, and also simultaneously made like fake correspondence. As though like the people in the Mavi Marmara ship were saying like, go back to Poland or go back to Auschwitz is what they claimed. They were saying, wait, how many people were killed? Maybe it was 9. I might have gotten it wrong.
I mean, let's be clear. Israeli commandos helicoptered onto the ship with long-barreled weapons and shot people.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a drone. It wasn't from a distance. This was up close killing unarmed activists.
Yeah. 9 killed, 40 injured. Yeah, they doctored images or doctored audio to be like, they said, remember 9/11.
Right. Well,
as though that was like a warranted response to just like slaughter everybody.
Remember when they hit the Israelis bombed that hospital? I forget which one it was. I think it was in southern Gaza. And then they released this video of like rockets, like from Islamic Jihad or somebody going off.
Oh, Al-Shifa, yeah.
Was it Shifa?
Or no, Al-Ahli.
No, Al-Ahli. And
Yeah.
so even the New York Times exposed them. They said, the timestamp doesn't work. It's completely bullshit.
Yeah, that was a lot of visual forensics teams very quickly were disparaging the Israeli counter narrative. But of course, that didn't stop ultimately from Joe Biden coming out, who, by the way, I think is more of a ultra Zionist than Donald Trump ever could be. Donald Trump was too narcissistic to care about Zionism as a project.
Yeah.
Whereas Joe Biden was a real one.
Well, he received more money from AIPAC than any other senator. He still holds the record.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
More money from AIPAC than anyone who's ever served.
Well, he's
in the
also
Senate.
been like in the Senate for a very long time. That's probably part of it too.
I don't know.
He had enough time to
hasn't
win
been in
over.
the Senate for a while. He still holds the record.
That's
Don't get me started on Biden.
Yeah. Oh no, I hate him as well. He's a horrible, rapacious monster, war criminal, and of course, as you said earlier, the media very quickly after his cancer diagnosis came out and were trying to whitewash his image and launder his reputation.
Oh, they do it all. They do it to everyone. I work for Nader. I was Ralph Nader's speechwriter, and so they've even resurrected George W. Bush.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. That is horrifying to watch unfold, but it works. It works. That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of old people still look at that and go, I think mainstream media knows how to tug at the collective consciousness and the heartstrings of the American population by leaning into certain narratives that.
Well, because it's all personalized.
That
So
work, yeah.
Isn't it nice that he likes Michelle Obama?
Yeah.
And so what they do is create, and it's all personality or everybody's a celebrity now. I mean, politicians are just celebrities. And what it does is it fosters historical amnesia. So you have Biden running, Biden who opposed abortion, who called for the invasion of Iraq 5 years before we invaded, who was Strom Thurmond's puppet in the Senate, as I mentioned.
And eulogized them like years after he had fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
Like he was
opposed
no longer
busing. I mean,
Yeah.
just endless. Supported
architect of the crime bill.
The omnibus crime bill.
Yeah.
3 strikes, you're out. Huge expansion of death penalty crimes, which went from roughly in the single digits to over 50 under Biden. This was all when Clinton and Biden were transforming the Democratic Party into the Republican Party in the name of law and order. No, but when he ran, it's, they're very good at decontextualizing these figures, erasing their past, and then it's all, they're good at manipulating how we feel about these figures. It's completely a false narrative, and the media is completely complicit.
Absolutely. I agree. I think I warn about the dangers of completely losing any sort of professionalism or any sort of the remaining shred of credibility that mainstream institutions have. Because at the end of the day, how many reporters does the New York Times hire? What, 7,000?
No, they have the New York Times. Well, when I worked there, they had about 1,500 roughly people. It's probably less now, but about 750 reporters.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like there's New York Times.
They don't have 7,000 reporters. That's
New York Times,
unless
how
you're
many?
counting freelance or something.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, I think it's with the freelancers. Okay, it's 1,700. Okay.
Yeah, but that counts editors, journalists. See, you only have about 750 reporters.
The point I was going to make is regardless of how many they have, it's this is incredible. This is immensely valuable. That's not.
I know.
There is no independent outlet that can make up for this lack of coverage. So when nobody trusts the New York Times because they just keep using the remaining shred of credibility they have to propagandize for positions that the average dumb guy can even understand is wrong, all of a sudden it's over. There is no unifying credible institution that is going to cover things truthfully, even by accident.
Well, the problem is the alternative media doesn't have the resources to hire reporters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what you do is great, and you may go out and do periodic reporting, but the internet, because it used to be that you needed these news organizations to connect sellers with buyers. Now, with the internet and all of our personal profiles are, well established within the system, they don't need that intermediary. And that's that first classified advertising, that was 40%, that went. But then this went. And so that's what scares me, that, and I talk to these kids in journalism schools, great, but there's almost no place for them to go.
Yeah.
And if they go to the New York Times, it's hard to get a job at the Times, and it's a very careerist-oriented institution. And so there aren't rules written on the walls, but what's going to get you in trouble and what isn't. You want to advance your own career. If you really, truly care about reporting, you are going to clash with the institution, and there's just a really small number of people who are willing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me. And where do these great, honest reporters, Cy Hirsch, he started as a freelance reporter. I mean, freelance investigative journalist. Where do they go now? That's what scares me.
Yeah. They can do stuff in alternative media, but it's not the same in terms of its broad coverage. The most, as you acknowledged earlier, the most that we can do in the independent media sphere is basically try to expose as many truths as possible, and then maybe with the additional public pressure, get institutions like the New York Times to start leaning in the direction of the truth, so that they don't lose every aspect of their legitimacy.
I think, having worked there, it's a Byzantine organization. They're completely self-referential. In fact, with the decline in advertising revenue, they've become even more cautious about what they will take on because they're terrified of losing. They run their own advertising. They run their own advertising company, an offshoot of the Times. I forget what it's called, T something. Well, their biggest client, Chevron, which is precisely why they weren't going to cover Donziger.
Yeah.
The Times has always focused and these are their numbers, that 30 million upper class or upper middle class, that's always been their target. The rest of the country can go to hell. It's why they don't cover New York. It's why they don't cover poor people. It's why they don't cover labor. It's why all of their sections are about the difficulty of maintaining the second house in the Hamptons, who has a second house in the Hamptons. That is their primary focus. That is where they make their money from. And it's interesting that as they shifted to digital subscribers, so they had a huge uptick in digital subscriptions after the first election of Trump. And digital subscribers are much more fickle than people who got the old paper copy.
Yeah.
They're fickle in the sense that they'll cancel the subscription and they pay less. And so they found with polling that I think it was some huge figure, 90-something% of people did it because they hate Trump and they expected the Times. And when Trump was elected the first time, the Times sort of, presented itself as the great bastion of truth that was going to fight the fake news and everything else. But what happened was they started catering to that clientele. And that's where you got the Russiagate stuff. And they don't pay a price for it because it's what the people who subscribe to them want to hear.
Yeah.
And that makes commercial sense, but it's devastating for journalism.
It's the same principle behind something that I've noticed is you'll never get punished for being wrong if you are wrong in the direction of the State Department.
Well,
you only get elevated.
Right.
You only get elevated if you're wrong in the direction of the State Department. You could say a million different falsehoods about Israel in defense of Israel, even the New York Times reporting on screams without words.
Yeah,
I mean that was insane. It was so insane that it came out that it didn't actually meet the editorial standards internally.
They hired two people who weren't journalists. One of them had been an intelligence officer, who was a filmmaker in the IDF, and the family that they used as the centerpiece of it said she wasn't raped. I mean, it was really embarrassing. That was awful.
Yeah, there was no punishment for that whatsoever. There was no are we doing things correctly?
Well, no, you don't have to pay for that. As long So when I was denouncing the war in Iraq, John Burns, was of the paper, was also speaking about the war in Iraq, but he supported it. So I was attacked because I opposed it, but he was untouched because he supported it.
Yeah, it's you get rewarded for it. There was some other stuff I wanted to talk to you about. With respect to what happened in Colorado, are you familiar with what took place?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of reporting this and the embassy staffers being shot.
Was it the same ADL guy who attacked you
for both? Yeah.
Same guy.
It's Jonathan Greenblatt. He's the president of the ADL.
Oh.
Yeah. He's I jokingly say I'm his white whale. Like he's just he's not going to stop until I'm sufficiently deplatformed. And it's interesting because there are a lot of Hasbro rags that will immediately work the SEO. Every now and then a mainstream institution will write an article about me that will not even scratch the surface of my positions that they consider to be too radical, but it's almost like a nod by individual journalists who are we're trying to say this person is a person of credibility. And
I didn't think the New York Times article on you was so bad.
No, but even then, I mean.
But you know what it was? It was how you lifted. It was how you lifted weights or something. So it's exactly that thing of they're minimizing what your positions are to turn you into a celebrity or something like that.
Yeah.
Though the headline which they replaced was hilarious. what was it? The
MAGA body.
MAGA, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
They took that down pretty quick, I saw.
But that's like that's the best for the New York Times. Like they're at their best when they write a headline that nobody likes. Like Republicans get mad at that, and liberals get mad at that too, and that's like perfect because it drives clicks, I guess, for the article itself. But
let me just ask on the ADL thing. So I saw the first one. I didn't see the one in Colorado. Were you the only person he named?
No.
By name.
By name, yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think there was a TikToker this time. He
no,
named
but I'm talking the
well.
first time around.
First time around, I was the only
just
person
you.
he named. Yeah.
Yeah.
This time he named some TikToker named Guy Christensen, I believe, who's gotten a lot of like coverage from the New York Post. I'm not entirely familiar with what he said, but this time he named both of us, and then very quickly moved on to and the speakers at college campuses.
Oh, did he?
Like the student protesters on college campuses, they're responsible for this.
And what I really want is whether it's social media influencers on Twitch and YouTube like Hassan Piker or other kind of promoters of hate on YouTube and TikTok like Guy Christensen, or like, you know, these speakers at these graduations. It just happened the other day at MIT, spreading blood libels about the Jewish people or the Jewish state. It creates the conditions in which this kind of act is happening with increasing frequency. We've got to stop it once and for all. I hope the Trump administration will do just that.
I feel so left out.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting about this, well, what's really damaging and dangerous about this is that like I don't think these guys genuinely comprehend that for the average American, I feel like the average American is very selfish, right? And they don't necessarily care about everything that's going on, even though they think like, yeah, this is really messed up. Like, oh, the children are dying. I don't like that. Our taxpayers are funding this genocide. I don't like that at all. But when you are engaging in censorship, that does directly impact Americans in a way that they are.
It's worse, Hassan. They're not just engaged. What they're doing is essentially accusing you, when he uses the term blood libel, of an accessory to murder. That's what he's doing. It's not just censorship. And the danger of that, I've dealt with it, is that you just need one lunatic who believes it. I mean, that's how Yitzhak Rabin died. I was assassinated. I covered the Netanyahu rallies when he was running against Rabin, and they were putting Rabin in a Nazi effigy because of the Oslo peace agreement and burning it. There was one rally where Netanyahu walked in front of a mock funeral of Rabin.
Yeah.
And when after he was killed, his widow Leah blamed Netanyahu and his supporters. So the danger is it's worse than censorship. And what he's doing is essentially greenlighting some fanatic to carry out a revenge act for your responsibility or sanctioning of murder. That's really what's happening. It's far graver.
Yeah. No, I recognize that for sure. It's, it is what it is. There's not really much I can do about it. But what I was going to say is the other side of this is that for the average person that sees this kind of stuff and the consistent association from people who are, in charge of powerful institutions that are tasked with combating anti-Semitism on paper, this conflation between Israel and Jews and the simultaneous invocation of blood libel doesn't actually cause people to take a breath as it did once in the past and go, oh, wow, I don't want to be anti-Semitic or problematic here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're right. It causes them to go, oh, blood libel is, I guess, when Israel does something that is actually horrifyingly violent. They start believing that blood libel is fake. They start believing that historic anti-Semitism was actually not real. And this is how anti-Semitism manifests and festers.
This is going to boomerang. These Zionists are doing a huge disservice to Jews across the world.
Absolutely.
Because by essentially equating Judaism with Zionism and Judaism with genocide.
Yeah.
We haven't even seen the Palestinian blowback yet, and we're going to get it. You have hundreds of thousands of Palestinians whose lives have been destroyed, whose families have been obliterated, who have been forced. And the thing is, the rest of the, they're very conscious, having just spent several weeks with them in Egypt, they're very conscious of the fact that the world doesn't care, considers them worthless, does not consider them even human.
Yeah.
And, we know, take the three Turkish Ottoman figures, Enver and others, Talat, who carried out the genocide of Armenians in Turkey. Of the three, two of them were assassinated. And so, of course, we're going to get blowback. But my fear is that becomes a gift to Trump and the far right.
Yeah.
Because then, the SUVs with the tinted windows show up outside your place and mine and everyone else.
Yeah.
But that they're orchestrating that, they're creating that. And I don't condone terrorism. I covered the horrible bus bombings in Jerusalem and everything else. At the same time, it is unfortunately a natural human reaction when your people look at the Sobibor uprising, which was then the uprising by Jewish inmates, when that famous moment when they break in and this Jewish inmate is stabbed, by his own admission, stabbing this German, going, "This is for my mother, this is for my father, this is for..." Well, none of us would act any differently.
Yeah.
But that's coming. And we're already seeing, of course, glimpses of it with like the Boulder, Colorado thing and the killing of the two young Israeli embassy employees. Of course, but this is what happens. I mean, remember one of the things that triggered Kristallnacht was the murder of a minor Jewish
French
in France, but it was a German diplomat by
Herschel Green.
Oh, wow, you're good.
I think.
I remember.
I forget his last name.
Yeah.
There's David Frankfurter as well, who famously went to Switzerland and assassinated a Nazi figure that was in Switzerland at the time. But yes, it's interesting that there are so many parallels between like understandable partisan resistance and Jewish resistance against the Nazi regimes all around, far before the final solution, far before like the death camps as well, because of the open suppression of Jews existing in public in Germany and many other places and being sent to concentration camps.
When I covered the war in Salvador, one of the founders of Med San Dumont, her name was Alina Margolis. She came down for 6 weeks every year to work in the refugee camps. She had been in the Warsaw Ghetto. She had been married to Marek Edelman, who was the deputy commander of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the only one who survived. And they hated the Zion. They were Bund. They were socialists. They were atheists. They were, but it was a Jewish Bund organization. So as soon as Poland was occupied, they went underground to form armed resistance. But the Zionists kept trying to negotiate and kept ratting them out. And after the war, and the big moment for them was they smuggled somebody to Hungary, because Hungary didn't deport its Jews until very late.
Yeah.
So they smuggled someone to tell them about Treblinka. And what happened was the wealthy Jewish leaders, 1,500 of them, Eichmann actually flew to Budapest, and they gave him a lot of money, and they got to leave to go to Palestine. And they didn't warn the rest of the Hungarian Jews who were slaughtered. I mean, a huge percentage of them were killed, and she never forgave them for that.
Yeah.
I asked her how, because they had a ghetto fighters kibbutz. So I asked her, what was it like when you first went to Israel? She said it's a nation run by collaborators. And she and Marek, they never left Poland. And Marek Edelman, this amazing figure, he not only defended the right of Palestinians to resist, he said they have a right to use armed force to resist in the same way that we did in the ghetto. So on the one hand, Israel would dine out on the ghetto uprising, and yet Edelman was a pariah. He was never invited. He was never given an honor or nothing. And I think that history of the conflict with Zionism within Judaism itself is often lost.
Yeah, because I feel like there is this dual purpose of the Holocaust where everything I've read about Israeli society is so critical of the survivors of the Holocaust.
Well, that was true at the beginning. So in the 50s, they were an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Then what happened was they became a very useful political tool.
Yeah.
That didn't happen until, let's say, roughly almost 2 decades after the Israeli state was founded.
Yeah. Initially, it was resentment, and even then, still to this day, like Holocaust survivors are treated very poorly in Israeli society, from what I understand. Even if the narratives have been weaponized at the behest of Israel to continuously say like this is a horrifying act of violence, understandably, because it was. And that we must never allow it to happen, which is why we have to be a militant nation, a nation that's constantly engaging in conquest.
Well, it's about eternal victimhood.
Yeah.
So it's about the sanctification of their victimhood. Elon Poppy's written about this really well. So is Norman Finkelstein.
Yeah.
And therefore, you're able to carry out this genocide and paint yourself as the victim, which is precisely what this guy is doing, what Greenblatt is doing.
Yeah. It's interesting to see like so many liberal Zionists openly adopt the framework of Meir Kahan, saying never again just the Jews.
Yeah.
Like the notion that never again is supposed to imply just the Jews. Like
Well,
that's what we mean when we say
the problem
never
with
again.
all the Holocaust studies, and Primo Levi got it, is that we forgot the fundamental lesson of the Holocaust. And it's not that Jews are eternal victims. It's that when you have the capacity to stop genocide and you do not, you're culpable. And this is a really, for me, you know, of course it's personal because I've spent so much time in Gaza, but I think this is a really seismic moment in history. The global South, I don't think that Israel's going back from this, but more importantly, we in the global North have exposed who we are. It's just the mask is dropped.
Yeah.
And as you see the breakdown of the climate and migrants fleeing, you know, this savage industrial violence, which is perpetuated by Israel, by the UK, by France, by Germany, I worry that this becomes the template, you know, to these global sort of climate fortresses in the North will then just kill with unmitigated savagery the way Israel and the United States, of course, is killing in Gaza.
Yep. No, precisely. That is, I think it's not only just a laboratory of weapons, it's a laboratory for suppression techniques by the state, which then, ironically enough, even Israeli Jews experience in times of discontent, like they did in 2018, I believe, when they were protesting against the Supreme Court decisions, and the same like skunk sprays that they used in Palestinian villages in the West Bank were now turned on them, and yet. And this is the final point I want to make is that like they do not understand the imperial boomerang because there is no way in which I think Israeli society will ever recognize that everything is based around the permanent suppression and death and destruction, extermination of the Palestinians, the indigenous population to the land. And when you don't address that immediate contradiction and you refuse to recognize it, you don't recognize that your society is no longer the liberal bastion that you might have thought it once was. It never really was, obviously, considering that it was still built on top of the Nakba and a permanent continued suppression of Palestinians and Palestinian statehood. But this is a warning that I always try to explain to people, like what Israel looks like right now, a truly fascist society. When people say like, how did the Holocaust happen in Germany? Like, how did German people turn a blind eye to these death camps that were, you know, next door to where they lived? And you're watching it unfold.
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, there were two great Israeli scholars, Zev Sternhill and Yeshayahu Leibowitz, who wrote precisely that. And Yeshayahu Leibowitz, I think, wrote in the 80s, got it all. He said, you know, if we become an occupier, then all of the methods that we use for occupation come back into and that's what, you go back to Thucydides when he talked about the disintegration of the Athenian Empire. He said the tyranny that Athens imposed on others, it finally imposed on itself. That is true for Israel, but it's also true for us. Yeah. So having worked on the outer reaches of empire, I watched all this stuff get tested, drones, wholesale surveillance, militarized police, you know, night raids. I mean, what's the difference between a night raid in Fallujah and a night raid in Oakland? Not much.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. These military entities hollow the country out from the inside, and then they use the tools of suppression that have been tested on black and brown people mostly overseas, but it comes home and hits the rest of us. And that, you're exactly right. That is what's happening in Israel, but it's also happening here.
Yeah, LRADs, initially used as a crowd dispersal tool, long-range acoustic devices in Iraq. And shortly thereafter, now LRADs are in the hands of virtually every single police.
That's how they broke up the
police
protests on
department.
WHO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single police department in the United States
That's
of
right.
America now has long-range acoustic devices that were previously utilized by the American military in Iraq.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's fascism is colonialism turned inwards. Amy Cesar is correct.
Oh, he's great. Discourse
yeah.
on Colonialism is a great book. Everyone should read it.
So that is unfortunately what I think we are bouldering towards, and I don't know how to make more people aware of this devastating reality. I urge people not to succumb to nihilism and keep pushing. And keep up the pressure, because one day the contradictions will worsen to a degree where people will start recognizing that this is untenable. Do you have any final words?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, we're not a fascist state yet. I mean, you and I are here. I've spoken to very large crowds in Los Angeles and Berkeley on the genocide, but we're moving rapidly towards it. Read Victor Klemperer's "I Will Bear Witness." This is always incremental. We know where they're going. We know what they want. And there's only one way to stop it. That's mass mobilization. I think that, obviously the government is not going to halt the genocide, but we have to halt it. We have to target people who make these weapons in the United States. Dock workers should not be loading ships with weapons sent to Israel.
Yeah.
Because if this genocide is going to be halted, and there isn't much time left, it's up to us, because nobody in Republican, Democrat, or no one in authority is going to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, Hassan.
And people can find you at your Substack if you want to shout it out.
ChrisHedges.substack.com.
Hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real honor to be able to host you. All right. Perfect.
Great.
So I'm going to keep going,
Okay.
but I'll walk you guys out here, of course. And here, chat, we'll continue with the coverage.
Damn, this guy's good.